Hello. I would like to begin this episode by thanking some people like Ben Comby, KL, Katie Coleman, Red Filter, and Frank Horrigan. All of these are people who have gone to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv and kicked us some money to support this show and a bunch of other shows on the network. We really appreciate it. Once again, patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv.
My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Cole Ross.
And you're listening to Watch Out for Fireballs. It is a Games Club podcast.
And this week we are continuing and concluding our discussion of Tactics Ogre, Let Us Cling Together.
This is part 2. Won't make any sense without part 1.
No, go back, listen to it. We talk about the mechanics?
Yep. I don't think anybody ever does that, but we always warn them.
Yeah.
There's always going to be a first.
Always going to be a first, and these are always at least somewhat cumulative.
Yes.
There we go.
It's exceptionally important in this case to do that because this game has a lot of battles, and I think that we're both on the same page as saying that it drags a bit at the end. Mm-hmm. So some of these battles that are in this game, we're going to scoot by with some quickness.
Yeah.
And if you want to have a frame of reference for what those are, that's going to show up in episode 1.
Yes, there are a good number of them that are just Tactics Ogre ass battles, and that is all there is to say about them. Yeah. Additionally, this episode is going to be structured a little bit differently because of the way the game branches. So at the end of last episode, we were kind of leading the rise of the Wallister, this kind of oppressed ethnic group on the island continent of Valeria. And in the process of doing that, we were asked to prosecute a war crime. And whether or not we decided to do that kind of split us into law and chaos paths.
Yes. Even though there is a neutral path, and I don't exactly know how to get into it.
Yeah,
I didn't find that.
You can only get to it from the chaos path.
Okay.
And there's an option that you are given toward the end of chapter 2.
Gotcha.
That will take you.
I thought that would put me back on the law path.
No.
So I didn't take that option because it would be feckless.
It would be a really bad choice to make. Yes.
Yeah, it'd be craven.
Uh-huh.
So I didn't do it. But yeah, we're talking about law and chaos. And what's interesting is in looking at this stuff, a lot of the maps are the same, and the battles aren't all that different. It's just like the context that surrounds them.
Yes.
So this is going to be a thing where, like, a lot of the times the battles we're going to talk about are pretty similar. Maybe a unit might be different, depending on what side we're on, but the narrative is what's different. So we both got notes about our individual paths. And what we're going to try to do is not turn this into like a total pinga de ponge, like, well, in this version, this happened, and that version, that happened. Like, we're going to zoom out a little bit and move a little bit broad strokeser. And the reason being is otherwise we'll be here all day. And at least for the chaos route, the big plot things are cool. I would say most of the fights are a headhunter or army person finds me by coincidence. And I fight them and they won't listen to me when I tell them that I'm not the bad guy. And that happens an embarrassing number of times.
Yes. And on the law path, the big stuff is pretty cool. However, most of the time it is, okay, to advance the cause, we need to reach this town or castle and take it. And the battles are just along the way. We are stopped by just ragtag gangs of people who want to stop us.
Yeah, there's also like just speed bumps.
Yeah.
You know, it's a weird thing where like this game, when I was playing it, you know, I came away from it feeling like, you know, fairly positive, like moderately positive about it. Reading about it and compiling these notes made me really cranky. And part of it is just because I was predisposed to crank, but also I was just like, man, like I wanted to take an editor to this.
Yeah.
Because just, you know, all these like, did the Beastmaster guy really need to come back?
Yeah. Old Gamp. Yeah.
Yeah, old Gamp. Like the Pokemon element of this, of like the Suikoden, go recruit as many people as you can, really adds very little.
Yeah.
To this. Like I managed to do a couple of the optional recruitments in this path, and at no point, none of them are worth it that I did. Like none of them were better than my generics that I've been raising the whole game.
Right.
They started in unique classes that were level 1. You know, go back to the last episode to hear about that. But it's just like, why would I? This is so hard to do and so artificial.
Yeah.
And even when I do it, it sucks. Like, what is this? Who is this for? This element of this game, you know, not who the game is for in general, but like this part of this, these like filler battles and these like collect them all kind of bits.
No, it's for degenerate Fire Emblem gambling fans.
That's probably it. Yeah. I didn't even think about blaming the hated Fire Emblem, but
yeah, no,
but
I don't know that. I don't know if there's blame to be assigned. It's just like that. I can see there being, you know, people who, you know, overlap. Because
who just want to collect all the toys.
Yeah, you know, get all the folks. You know, and I found myself, you know, I don't know that I would make all the best calls in editing this, but I found myself wishing there was less of everything and that everything was higher impact. And then what I realized was, what I actually want to be playing is Final Fantasy Tactics, and that's going to make Tactics Ogre fans very cranky at me for saying that.
Yeah, but it's true. Like I played that, like I mentioned last episode, like I played that recently, relatively recently, like in the last 12 months.
Yep.
And the battles are less like this. It is way less that you just run into, like, it happens.
Yeah.
It's just like, here are some people who want the bounty on me.
Yes.
The other thing too, and I'm very curious, the other way this episode's going to be different is I want to hear about the Law Path, because some of the character stuff in the Chaos Path is very unsatisfying. Specifically, Ketua's arc.
Yeah.
I do not understand where she's coming from a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And that ended up being like kind of a big deal in this in terms of like the emotionality. Like, you know, I ended up coming back together with that character, and we will come back together. Like chapter 4 is Let Us Cling Together. We're back, you know, on the same page, me and Cole.
Yeah.
But I did not know why she was being a jerk.
Yeah.
During this.
Well, why she becomes evil Katja? Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't really get it, and I was just like, man, you know, this is you know, portraying. It's just something I feel like they were more deft at in Final Fantasy Tactics.
Yeah.
Like, you know, at certain points, Delita seems like he's being a shithead, you know, but it never doesn't feel like it makes sense.
Yeah,
and here, my two closest companions, Vice and Katja, both turn into just like snarling morons for no reason. And I'm like, what the fuck, man? Like,
yeah. So with Katja, we might like there might actually not be a difference when we talk about it, because it is very weirdly motivated. In my run as well, it basically all she needs to do is learn like 2 facts, and then she immediately turns away.
Yeah.
I have read I have read explanations for this that have to do with just like her inborn view, just like her views about basically what makes family. Is it blood, or is it, you know, time together?
Yeah.
And that I think is ultimately what leads it. I've also seen like Freudian reads that apply to older translations or to the original text. Yeah. So we'll see when we get there.
Fuck you, only person I've known my entire life. I'm going to go join the Dark Knights. It's time for me to go join the Evil Legion.
Yes. I understand that I am a priest right now, but what if I was Dark Priest?
Yeah. I've been considering becoming Dark Gary for a while, like Dark Podcaster. And I kind of get it, but at the same time, like, not my escapism, you know? So yeah, let's get into it. And like I said, I'm going to let you take the lead on these, because I think the battles are largely the same. Like I think they're a lot of the same places, in a different order.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm looking through and it looks like similar, even though there are some places I went to that you didn't. So we'll kind of go back and forth and see if we can keep up the pace.
Yeah, let's see if we can keep up the pace. Also, instead of like going just entirely through chapter 2 and then chapter 3, like, you know, like at a time, like how about I like get to the end of one of my little campaigns here and then you do your major story beat. And we can do it like that. Yeah.
That sounds great.
Neither of us played the neutral path, but you know, we can say roughly what happens in that when we get there. So I took the law path, which means that I do not abandon Duke Romway and Leonar after they order us to kill all of the people at the labor camp in order to you know, just make up some martyr stories to rally everybody. And the gambit mostly works kind of in this opening cutscene here. You know, the Wallister, they end up rallying, but the truth also galvanized the Galgastani. So it was basically no net gain. Duke Romway ends up being just a real tactical dipshit in this. Basically, his whole idea was the Galgastani will be so demoralized that this happened, you know, that this happens. Like, oh gosh, how could our people kill all of these, you know, these innocent civilians? Doesn't happen. All it does is escalate the war further. Yeah. So to keep the momentum going, Duke says, hey, we need to actually like make a strike at the Galgastani. We need to go to take out the Hierophant at their stronghold in Coratane. And we're going to do that. Our force is not enough, but what we can do is we can have Denam lead a force at their flank. They're going to see, oh, they're sending their hero at us. That, you know, they must be splitting their army in half. The idea being split the army in half so the main Wallister forces can make a drive at Coratane from the front. But this is a really dumb idea, and we will, you know, see how that pans out as it goes along. Yeah. So the first kind of thing that we are doing is going to Port Assiton, which is over on the west coast there. We pass through a couple of different places. Like we have a battle in Balma Musa that's on kind of like a bigger map. Nothing special really there. The Ziad Moors is where we first encounter the Galgastani, and they send a runner out to say like, hey, we're being flanked, so that part of the plan works. And this is where we fight our first Terror Knight, along with a loadout of a bunch of lizard men. I was real excited to see some Terror Knights, but I never found that they were much more effective than just regular knights for me, so I stopped leveling them up.
What Liz Clean Together and Tactics Ogre does that's kind of a bummer is every articulation of fighter mage gets its own class name.
Yeah. And
Terror Knights are knights. You know, regular knights can use white magic. Terror Knights can use dark magic. And then they have one unique ability to grant fear on enemies on attack.
And fear is very powerful, but...
Yeah, fear is really good, but it's also a big pain to level them up.
Yeah. I just found that the knights, the knights' innate ability, specifically the oh gosh, what is it? Like the stronghold aura or whatever.
Phalanx and
Phalanx specifically, but also the stronghold one.
Rampart aura.
Yeah, Rampart aura, which stopped people from getting around you. That was just so valuable that you know, if I was going to have a heavily armored person, I wanted them to have that.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, and of course the fact that I've been training them the entire time.
Yes. Yeah. Also that. Yeah. So I got one up about halfway and I was like, yeah, I don't see anything going here. So I switched that person back. Oh my gosh. Did you have a battle in the Rhea Bohm Aqueduct?
Yeah, I did. I think our battles are actually, I just didn't see how you had formatted the notes. I think our battles actually are in the same locations.
Okay.
Cause I did the Aqueduct. I did mine before the Moors or after the Moors because I was coming from the other direction.
Okay.
But the Aqueduct sucks. Like this is really annoying. And, in terms of the fight, like it's just a guy, you know, to fight like, hey, you know, it's a Zapan shows up. I don't know if he was a supporting character in your path. The chonky pervert Zapan.
Yeah, no, he wasn't really a factor for me. He showed up earlier, but I do not believe he showed up here.
Yeah, big Zapan here, but yeah, the aqueducts suck. This is the big thing with this is like they're being like it's this set of like little islands with this little aqueduct, and you can't move. The fact that I couldn't move my units onto the same space my units were on, and the fact that my move levels were so small was what fucked this up. Like I would get a guy on an island, and then they would just get bodied by these little octopi, and I couldn't send anyone to help them.
Yeah.
You know,
because they're just out there stuck, and even the main paths are around the edges. Those were also bottlenecked by gaps that people had to jump over. And most of your classes, if they are not specifically high mobility classes, like they're going to be stopped right there. So it was a little bit like having everybody run a three-legged race, but both of their legs were tied to each other.
Yeah,
just
or doing like a four-legged race.
Yeah.
With three people.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it was quite a lot. Octopi wrecked my shit to the point where if I had an option between places to go, I would avoid the place where the octopuses would be. Yeah.
I eventually just started running from random battles.
Oh yeah.
You know, you can retreat. So I'd still go through here, but I never fought in here again if I could help it.
Yeah. It's not good. But I reach Port Aceton, and we end up fighting the Galgastani forces from an uphill position. This is pretty easy, but this is where they introduce clay golems. Golems are a type of enemy that never got easier for me. They end up being they end up being a kind of enemy that basically nothing will do any damage to, and unless I dedicate all of my forces to trying to fight them, you know, or put breached on them or what have you, a single enemy cleric can undo a whole round worth of effort against them.
Yeah. These were prime. You know, I mentioned this last episode, but I was all petrify, sleep, charm.
Yeah.
For the whole game, and these were just charm targets.
Yes,
and the balance thing is they move so slowly that they would basically sometimes they wouldn't even get a turn. You know, they would uncharm themselves, but it just put them out of like commission. Like I'd charm them, they get one turn, they'd walk 3 feet, and then they would uncharm, but it just took them out of the battle for a while. Like just denying them moves. A move was worth it.
Yeah, I would attempt to do that. However, oftentimes that will solve the problem on most maps, but later in the game they start throwing you into vanquish the enemy objectives, which instead of going and trying to decapitate the enemy forces, you have to kill everybody, which means that you have to deal with these golems in one way or another. So it usually means just fighting around them or fighting behind them as you try to keep them asleep. Yeah,
saving them for the end.
Yes. Not good. Inconvenient. So we take Port Aceton, and Duke Romway gives the order for the main army to march. But Leonar, kind of his little sidekick here, his lieutenant, starts butting heads with him, saying, "Hey, do not rush in until we get word from Denam, because we have no idea if he actually succeeded in this." You know, when you go to leave the port, you are drawn into another battle. The Wallister Liberation Front starts to attack you, led by a woman named Aracel. She is an extremely overpowered archer who I went to pains to recruit. She is here. She knows what we did at Balmamusa, and she wants to avenge her brother's death. So that big fight that we did going downhill, we have to fight back up, like at the end of chapter 1 on the law path at Balmamusa, right? Very, very tough, especially with her just raining hell down on me and Archer leading archers. It's a lot.
Shake my damn head.
Yeah. But as she's about to teleport away, she says, "Oh yeah, by the way, this'll cheer you up. Duke Romway, he lost at the Sanji Weald, which means that the royal cause is lost. Hey, you dipshit, you backed the wrong horse. Bye-bye." And when we go to board a boat back to back to Almorica, Cachua says like, "Hey, this sucks. We need to just flee the island. I can't stand you fighting. I can't stand the idea of being left alone if you die. We just need to go." And Denam says, no, we need to go back to Almorica, not knowing will kill me, essentially. Yeah. So then they go back to the fort. What happens kind of in the first leg of the chaos path for you?
One thing is I want to make sure that we say the titles of these chapters because they're cool.
Oh yeah.
So the law one is I shall fear no reproach, which is nice, and the chaos one is the world can be put to rights, which I really like. Basically, I get framed for the massacre, even though I didn't do it.
Okay.
And Ravenous is there; she's dying, and she basically inspires you to keep fighting. Says that the means are more important than the end. There's a bounty out for our heads. We're like hiding out. And we hear word that Lancelot, the good Lancelot,
yes,
is on Tynemouth Hill, and we're going to try to turn him, to join our resistance or what have you. So we head there through some maps. We run to Aracel right away here, and this starts like the kind of Tactics Ogre thing of like, I didn't do it. Oh yeah, that's horseshit.
I don't care.
And then I don't care constantly. And then Donalto pops up to have dialogue every time to be like, and everyone knows Donalto. I didn't realize how popular Donalto was in this world.
He's like an archbishop kind of guy. Yeah.
Fucking BMOC, man. Like this dude is absolutely, and every single time I recruit somebody and they're yelling at me, Donalto tells them, no, seriously, he didn't do it. I was there. And it never matters.
Yeah.
And I wanted it to be like, oh, I recruited somebody so it'll make it easier to recruit their friends.
Yeah.
You would
think
not
that
happen.
Donalto would have credibility with the people he's trying to persuade, but he doesn't.
He doesn't. This happens consistently. I go to the aqueduct. This is where Zapan is. There's a little foreshadowing here because he says, oh, this is exactly where they said you'd be. Because we're being led into a trap with that information about good Lancelot. And he's real flirty with Cachua. This is going to pay off later.
Okay.
It's gross. And then we go to the moors where Aracel is being attacked by this guy named Vance. And she won't listen to us. And we even say like, hey, come closer to us. Mm-hmm. And she's like, no. And she dies because of course she dies. Mm-hmm. And then like, it's really frustrating. Denham's like, this isn't the way it was supposed to be. Like almost as if he's like taunting me to restart. And I'm like, you put the fucking defenseless character in the way past enemy lines and made everybody instantly aggro on her. Do not do this.
No. I don't know if you can the chaos can you recruit Aracel in the chaos?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. You do it here, and you do it by saving her,
by rescuing her.
Map.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. But I rescued very few people.
Right.
I went to the lake. Another mistaken identity. Like this guy named Genzo is here, and he just thinks that we're regular Galgastani. We're like, no, we're Wallisers, and we didn't do the thing. And he's like, I don't care.
Yeah.
And we get to the hill. But it's not good Lancelot that's there. It's Vice, who leaked the info.
You got catfished. Yeah,
we got Cachua fished as he tries to recruit Cachua here, and it's like it's so weird because he's such a snarling little weasel in this version.
I went and looked at his portrait. It makes no sense why his hair would get angrier.
He turns into American Kirby. I don't understand what it is. He's so pissed.
But like,
it's really, he's just like, and everyone like me and Cachua are both like, we've known you forever. Like, you're our best friend. Like and he's just like, I don't care. And Cachua, you can still come with me. Don't you want to get with a hero instead of a zero?
You mean my brother?
Yeah, he's my brother. We're not fucking. Like, what are you implying? And he does a thing that people do on Twitter all the time.
Okay.
That I realized, where he just makes up a premise, that he invents and then asks how, like, he's like, what would you have stayed by, what is it? Why Denam if he had committed the war crime? And she's like, no, he wouldn't do it. And he's like, checkmate. Like, what are you talking about? Like, he didn't do it. And also, what would that prove?
Yeah. So in this one, is it Denam who sticks with the Wallister resistance? So like, who was working with the Duke?
He's Denam isn't working with the Duke. He's kind of with his own independent resistance.
Okay.
And then we team up with the Liberation Front later.
Okay. But he's not with the Liberation Front. Okay.
No. They don't like us either. Nobody likes you in the Chaos route. Like, everybody is there for either the bounty on your head or racist reasons.
Okay. Yeah.
And you don't find allies for a while. Like, pretty soon we're going to find allies with some backrooms who were just kind of randos.
Okay.
But for now, it's like the Liberation, nobody likes us.
Right. So that's why Aracel's coming after you, because you were framed for it anyway.
Yeah, because she believes that we did it, so it doesn't really matter that we didn't do it, which was frustrating.
Yeah.
It's kind of neat the way that like it was propaganda being used against me, but like I feel like I should have been able to talk these people into some stuff.
Right.
But we eventually beat Vice, and he takes off, and we flee. Since we had been given a catfish, back to Chrysaro, which is kind of the next little wing.
Gotcha.
Of the Chaos Path.
Okay. Yeah. So. On the law path here, continuing in chapter 2, we have, we heard, the Wallister forces were routed at the Sonji Weald, kind of this wetland area on the way to Coratane. So we're going to head back to Almorica, but it is not necessarily that easy. We take the boat around to Quadriga Fortress, the area where we fought the Necromancer before. Nybeth, who doesn't really show up again, that's frustrating because I liked that side story stuff.
He's in the Chaos route. It does nothing happens with that.
Okay,
it's dumb.
Well. But we get here. I missed a recruitment opportunity because I was honestly confused by what was happening. There are 2 mercenary bands who are trying to claim a bounty on us. One of which is led by a real. It's like a special Buccaneer class or whatever, but is a guy who kind of looks like Sid from Final Fantasy IV a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. But what's interesting is it's basically everybody against everybody. The 2 mercenary groups start fighting each other while also kind of taking shots at us. So it's just like I made a lot of ground just by waiting for them to thin each other out before I went in.
That's neat. That's a cool battle.
Yeah. I missed out on the recruitment by not doing that, and I never really got anybody who could use a fusel, who could use a gun until Vice later on. But Vice came in at level 1 in chapter 4, and I was like,
yeah, fuck this.
Yeah. So on the way, we passed through Tenemeth Hill, and guess what? We've got more war crimes, Gary.
Hey.
Yeah. There's a Terror Knight named Gazialo, who I believe is working for the Dark Knights or with, one of the other kingdoms. And he's with this group of clerics here on the hill, and they're like, hey, you need to run, the force needs you. We'll sacrifice ourselves by keeping all these people busy. So you end up fighting a group that is almost entirely made up of clerics.
Just kill all the medics.
Yes, because they give us no other option. What's neat is that
Red Cross is no match for my bayonet.
What's neat is Gatiallo does not just like flee automatically at the start. Like he begins at one side of the map and he will run. Basically taking his movement every turn, trying to get to the other side to leave. If you kill him here, it makes another battle significantly easier on the other side. The problem is he is incredibly high level. By this point, I think I was like hovering around level 10 and he was like level 16. So it's like a challenge thing. He will not,
neat, though.
He will not bother you if you leave him alone, which is nice.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Cool idea.
Yeah. So this is where a side quest area opens up. I didn't really do anything in the Faramfa hunting grounds. I think that is like that is meant to be almost like just like an area you can dependably go to get a good good set of random encounters. But I didn't mess with it because I was kind of eyes on the prize for a lot of this.
Yeah. I didn't do any of the side quests.
Yeah. A lot of them are post-game material, actually.
Yeah. Same. Like I ended up seeing that, and I was like, okay, I'm basically good.
Yeah. We have a cutscene at Almorica before we get there. We've got Duke Romway, who is arguing with Leonar because Ramway is in denial about the route at Sonji. He does not understand that they just do not have the forces that they need to prosecute this war. And Leonard basically has no confidence in the leadership. Ramway decides, okay, here's what we're going to do. Let's go to the Dark Knights for aid, even though they're in the pocket of Bakram, which also wants us dead. But Ramway is so focused on the Galgastani that he is willing to basically sell out Wallister by making this kind of alliance. Leonard runs off. Just like, okay. Yeah, that sucks. We are not going to do this. And Denam, who has arrived there, decides, no, I'm not. Okay, yeah, I guess I'll do it. Fine, send me up to Sanji, I guess, or send me up to Phydock rather.
Yeah. No. He ends up doing that in my playthrough as well, but just later.
Okay.
Ramway.
Yeah.
Like Ramway's a dipshit no matter what.
Yes. It's interesting because he gets like, he's a dipshit for different reasons. It's about like whether he gets overconfident or underconfident, it seems.
Yeah. I could see that basically. Like there's a section in chapter 3 of this where like betrayal basically just goes round and around.
Yeah.
Everyone who isn't me betrays each other. Yeah. And then it's like, it's just me and the Dark Knights, to fight.
So there's a small little section here before we kind of start the final act of this. I'll just do this and I'll throw over to you for the middle part of yours. But at the Golborza plain, we're attacked by a new Wallister alliance. They're led by a ninja. Ninja are really interesting classes. I benefited from getting one and leveling them up here. So it's weird. They get the double attack, which is nice, but also they have summons. They've got like ninjutsu magic that either curse a sword so they can inflict, so they can be one of your best debuffers, either doing like immediately they get the ability to do stun and silence, which are both really powerful. And also they've got a move that can bind a person to a spot. So like getting one of these,
they don't move.
Yeah. And their summons are not half bad either because they attack multiple times. You end up finding enemies who are too resistant to it. But yeah, did you fuck around with ninjas at all?
I leveled one up to like partway.
Yeah.
Just to check them out. They end up using consumables, right?
Yes. Yeah.
These guys, yeah, like that's kind of the other gimmick of their magic. By the time the same, I ended up again beating the game with the same like initial 5 classes. Like I didn't get one powerful enough to be really find a place on my team. According to everything I read, like they are very powerful if you take the time. But I again, see episode 1. I hated the grinding classes up. Yeah, experience in this enough to just not like. This was still when I was fucking with it, but I would get that initial rush of levels. Like you'd get a level 1 ninja, get that initial rush of like 4 levels. The first time you do a battle, I'm like, oh fuck yeah, like this is gonna happen quick. Yeah. And then the next one, it's 1 battle or 1 level, and then it's no levels per battle, and it's like, do you really want me to do 8 random encounters for every class I want to level up? Yeah. Like, and that's like, silly.
Again, to armchair quarterback this, I understand how annoying that is, but like, I would think, okay, if I want to get around that, what I would do is, recruit. Just, find somebody on a battlefield, like in a random battle or whatever, take the time in the battle to do, to use the recruit command to get them in. The problem is when they're brought in, they're leveled down and like all of their gear is unequipped.
Yeah. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
Like, again, it's been a while since we recorded that last episode. Yeah. So there's a little bit of like repeating myself, but I don't understand the impetus behind it. So no, not really. Like I ended up reading about these other classes, but like the ninja is different because he's at least very different. A lot of them are variations on fighter mages. Yeah. And even this is kind of a fighter mage because they use that ninja magic, Yeah. So.
But yeah, here at the Golborza, there's one of the alliance members recognizes Quechua and tries to say like, hey, you need to leave Denam because he has gone way too far in his lust for power. So like, again, you are being used as this propaganda piece and everybody has a different idea about what Denam actually is doing, over the course of this. What kind of happens in the middle of the chaos path over there?
So when we go to Chrysaro, Vice predicted this. So there are Wallisters there waiting for us, but they are quarreling with this knight named Fullcourt. We drive them off and save Fullcourt. We need to make it to Rhyme, but the overland route is too crowded. So he says, like, hey, I'm with the Liberation Front. If you help me free my ship from these pirates, we can use the ship to go up there. We say, yeah, and this is where Cachua starts fighting with me. Basically just saying, like, hey, why would we team up with these people? And we're like, we don't have a choice. You just don't like this because you didn't choose it. And she's like, and gets real cranky with me. And this is the beginning of us fighting.
Okay.
So we go to the pirates at the fortress there. And they have a mage who is teamed up with Fullcourt named Ban, who I actually managed to recruit.
Okay.
Looking at it online, if Sistina was alive.
Yeah.
Sistina is also part of the Liberation Front, and the pirates have her even deeper in the cave.
Oh,
so
God.
there's an optional mission to go rescue her, but she wasn't alive for me.
Okay.
So, nobody brought up Sistina.
She's the one who was like stuck in in Archipolis of Rhyme. She was like stuck on a little island over there.
Yep.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
So if I did that headache, I'd have her here. So we take the ship and we go to Boed Fortress, and we meet Syria, who's the leader of the Liberation Front.
Okay.
And what she's basically saying is, like, both sides of this war are on their last legs. At some point, they're going to treat for peace. If we kill the leader, if we assassinate the Duke, then they won't be able to. There'll be nobody to do that. We get a messenger pops in part way. This is Balbodos has been taken.
Okay.
At this point.
Yeah, the leader
And
of the
she's like,
Galgistan. Yeah.
Yeah, the leader of the Galgistan, and she's like, this doesn't change our plans. We still have to kill the Duke.
Okay.
Fullcourt doesn't like this. And he says, like, I don't really want to do this. We're like, come with us. He's like, well, I'm a Bakram. I'm like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
So he joined us, and we get him and the mage, who ended up using Bayan, the mage, quite a bit. He was not more powerful than my other mages. He just had a specialty in different elements.
Okay.
So he was fine. We make our way to Goliath here, where we run into another mercenary, and this is when they start adding the little, like, don't you feel bad about killing them lines at the end of these guys. Like, this guy wasn't recruitable.
Okay.
But you kill him, you kill this mage guy, this mercenary, and when he dies, he goes, 30,000 goth, just enough to save my daughter's life, and then dies. And I laughed out loud. Like, I just, like, come on, man. Like, what is going on?
Yeah. Oh, man. Aren't you ashamed of that thing I made you do?
Yeah. Very, very similar. We get a little cutscene before we do our final act, where the Wallisters have amassed at Cortene, and Rodway has Balbodos, and Balbodos basically says, like, hey, we're not so different. Like, we're both, have our hands bloodied, and Rodway executes him.
Oh, okay.
And so that he is the one who got taken, and they're still going to go kill. The Resistance is still planning to go kill the Duke. That's not what happens, but that's still the plan.
Yes. Wow. So Balbodos dies very early in your path. Yeah. And the Wallister get much more powerful because I assume they take Cortane. Yeah.
They do, but it doesn't matter that much because then I go and start taking stuff.
Gotcha.
Like, it's, so they do get more powerful, but then they still do the same thing where they make the alliance with the Dark Knights and get betrayed and shit.
Of course. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Because they're called the Dark Knights.
Yeah.
Fucking
it's right.
idiot.
It's right there.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So, again, like, we are headed toward Phi Castle in order to make it, just to try and make an alliance with the Dark Knights. And we stopped by the Archipolis of Rhyme, just one of a town where we had been before. Lancelot and all of the other mercenaries from Zenobia, they kind of stuck around here as well, with the exception of Canopus, who was with us, solid bro. Denam wants to go meet Lancelot. Again, this is Lancelot Hamilton, the good Lancelot, not the bad one. But at the meeting place, he instead finds Leonar. And he's here basically to, propose a coup, saying, hey, the rebellion is doomed because of Duke Romway's poor leadership. like, we need somebody else at the top of this. The only person that the people are going to willingly follow is going to be you, Denam. We need you to go and kill the Duke and take over the Wallister Rebellion. And Denam agrees. And Katua says, for fuck's sake, can we not just go somewhere else?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you realize there are parts of this country that are normal, right? Like, they got a Chuck E. Cheese on the island across the street. Man.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Things in Zenobia seem pretty settled down.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
No.
But when you go to leave Almorica, there's a battle that starts. Or, you know, when you go to leave the Archipolis of Rhyme, a battle starts. It's Vice and Aracel stopping you from going back to Almorica, and a bunch of other people from the new Wallister Resistance, which Vice had gone and joined in this path. Vice would really just kind of prefer to not fight here, because even though he is incredibly pissed with Denam, he knows that it is not going to be advantageous. RSL is the one who is more kind of set on revenge here. So your objective is to slay Vice. And instead of being reluctant like the story would have him be, he just pretty much charges in. RSL stays off at the far end, like at the top. There's like an upper level. She's got a bunch of archers with her and a bunch of clerics that are not really a factor if you focus on taking out Vice, if he makes his charge. So it's not that big of a deal. The fight is interrupted after you slay Vice, because the sky flash is red. Bakram and the Dark Knights have charged in, and they are pressing an attack on this civilian town, the Archipolis of Rhyme. And they charge in. Lancelot Hamilton gets into a fight with Barbas, the Dark Knight leader who's leading the attack. And Vice and Denam make their retreat still as enemies. Like, hey, we're going to settle this later. Rhyme is taken. The plan doesn't change. Doesn't matter what the Dark Knights are going to do. We were not going to make that alliance with them anyway. So we head back to Almorica, to do our little coup there. It's basically the same couple of fights at the start of this, like you had at the beginning in the tutorials. The difference is that at the gates there are dragons. This is one of the first times you've really fought those. And boy, they're tough. Like, even their boulder toss is a huge deal.
Yeah, dragons are a real problem.
Yeah.
In this, there's a battle in the final, like, mega dungeon. With undead dragons.
Yep.
That come back to life. That gave me fucking conniptions.
Yeah.
Regular dragons are bad enough, but and like all of a sudden they're not rare. Like, basically this is the fulcrum of the game, which everybody's got a couple dragons.
Yep.
In tow.
Just to throw around, just kept in the garage in case you need it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. It's pretty rough. And also the dragons alongside golems. It sucks.
Yeah.
At least we are before the point where every objective is vanquish all, which is nice.
Yeah.
Otherwise it would be a lot for this point in the game. The passageway is just a brawl with a lot of advanced classes. So, like, instead of having just regular knights, you have terror knights, etc. A little bit more specialized, but not too huge of a deal. There's a cutscene when you get into the into the throne room here, where Leonard closes in on the Duke and kills him himself. And then attempts to kill Denam in the passageway. Basically, the plan was to frame Denam for the uprising, and then have Wallister rally to him in the vacuum that Denam left. Just basically say there was treachery within the ranks. That is why.
I'm Denam now.
Yes, I am Dad now. I have gotten rid of everybody who stopped us from succeeding. We not only had Romwe, who was a hero, we have Denam, who was treacherous anyway. So he is the one who is staging the coup instead. He's about to kill Denam when Vice interrupts with a crossbow shot. They have caught wind of what is going on, and this starts the chapter-ending battle against Leonard, where you are, trying to take him down. It's very tough, just like any of these dual throne room battles would be. However, you do have help from Aracel and Vice to make things a little bit easier. Both of them are range fighters, so they're helping you with damage. However, Leonar has very high defense because he is a knight, and occasionally he will just phalanx up, which means disengage, go and heal while you wait for him to wait for that to wear off.
Yeah. That phalanx move, like, it's very powerful on either end.
Yes.
Like, if the enemy uses it, you're basically fucked.
Yeah.
And if you use it, it's like incredibly useful.
Mm-hmm. So. But yeah, Leonar goes down, and you are left in this power vacuum, trying to basically take responsibility and lead the official, the Wallister Royalist uprising and rebellion. Yeah.
In Chaos Town, we're also going to to Rhyme, and Zapan, our chonky pervert, shows up. This
Who
is a
is
little
Zapan
ambush
associated with?
He's working for the Duke.
Okay.
Here, even though he gets betrayed in like a second, but he is working for the Duke. Like, he's a mercenary to catch us.
Okay.
This is an interesting battle because Denam and Cachua are in the city, and they're separated from the rest of your group. Like, they come and surround you, so you have to fight your way back to your main group.
All right.
Here, Dragon City, tons of dragons, huge pain in the ass. This was where Canopus was already my MVP for the entire game. You can fly up to a roof in the center of town and just snipe the world.
Okay.
It was really, very, very effective.
Yeah.
Like Canopus Archer forever.
Did you have Canopus? So I initially thought that he would be very good with with a bow. However, I ended up equipping and leveling up crossbow specifically because the limit break for that is so good.
The bow limit breaks are also extremely good. Like,
yeah.
They're all big damage with a really devastating status effect.
Yeah, the crossbow one, I forget what it's called already because a lot of them just have kind of nonsense names, but it's one of your only like AOE attacks that you can get. So it does, it'll potentially shoot and do a ton of damage to 5 people if you can if you can position it right.
Get them together.
Yeah.
I kept them with bow. Ended up using the final limit break you get for that. Is it does really big damage, and then if it doesn't kill the person, it charms them.
Oh, nice.
And I never had it miss. Like, the charm never failed.
Yeah.
So it was a really good way to get that person dead no matter what, because you'd hit them and then they would be charmed, and somebody else would come and kill them or counterattack them.
Yeah.
For you. So as this is happening, that war crime with the Dark Knights happens in the city as well. There's a big red flash. Barbas has shown up, and Lancelot chases him here. And I just stand there, slackjaw, and watch this. And while it's happening, Zapan kidnaps Cachua.
Okay.
Cool. And I'm just like, well, I'm an idiot. And then they tell me to go rescue my sister. So I go to do so. Head over to Almorica, where they brought Cachua. Zapan is there. We do one battle outside with Zapan and his old woman, Ramados.
Okay.
Donalto knows all of them, of course.
Yeah.
And begs them to put down their arms, and of course they don't, because Donalto is ineffectual. Zapan, Ramados dies. I don't know if you can recruit her, but Zapan flees. When you head into the building, Vice killed Zapan. You come in and he's already killed him.
Okay.
In order to take Cachua. And I get into a duel with Vice. And he reveals like his motivation, basically like, yeah, we want the same thing, but you were always the chosen one. You're always the favored child. I was always jealous of you.
Oh God.
Yeah. It doesn't land super well.
No. So he does all of this specifically because he resents his friend.
Yes. And he's always resented his friend. Like, you're basically like, you say, where is this coming from? And he's like, was I that good a liar? And I'm like, yeah. I guess so, man.
Wow.
Like,
that is a that is a personal motivation that feels way too petty for a story at this scale.
Oh yeah, like it doesn't. So one of the things about this having the branching paths, and again, a misconception I had about this going into it was that it was going to be Rashomon like, where like different perspectives revealed the same character just from different angles. But it's not. It's Age of Apocalypse. Like it's one little change makes everyone into a totally different character.
Yeah.
So it's just, it's kind of arbitrary.
Yeah.
At this point, because Leonar is a straight good guy in my world as well. So I beat this duel. The duel is extremely tough. I had to restart my save and grind to beat it. And basically this ended up introducing a duel strategy for this that I didn't care for that much, where my Denam was a knight and I had to watch the other character's TP meter and try to predict when it would get to 100 so I could do phalanx.
Yeah.
And that was how I survived the battle. Like if I wasn't phalanxed when he did his finishing move, like I was basically fucked.
Right. You can never recover from the healing deficit it puts you in.
Yeah. So very difficult. Leonar pops in and stops the duel. He says, like, listen, Rhyme has fallen. The backroom are on their way here, and Lancelot, good Lancelot, is either dead or he's fled.
Okay.
We're kind of fucked. Listen, the backroom are coming. Join the Duke. Then I'm like, you have to do it. Now is the time to consolidate, and you can either say like, yeah, like we have a common enemy in the backroom, or like, no, I can't do that, to stay on the chaos path.
Okay.
So I stay on the chaos path.
Yeah.
If you join Vice, then I didn't know, I haven't done the neutral path, but Vice leaves the Duke because you're there. Like he always has to be, Gary from Pokemon.
Right.
Leonar, so I say like, I can't do that. And Leonar, who has honor in this world is like, well, here, you can have your sister back.
Yeah.
Like run, basically like the back are on their way. Like we'll meet again in the future.
Yeah. I am much happier with Leonar being the dick than Vice being the dick. Like in the chaos path, it sounds like you got exactly the opposite of like the motivations that make sense.
Whoever's not the dick ends up making like a pretty good character.
Yeah.
Like I end up liking Leonar. Eventually he comes out real like centrist scum.
Yeah.
In chapter 3, but I would say in the chaos path at the very least, Vice is a total failure as a character.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing interesting about Chaos Vice.
Yeah, and like Law Vice ends up being, he ends up rejoining with you, and just drops out of the story entirely because they can't really write a story that assumes he is alive and a major role in it. But like him going and joining the New Wallister Resistance and like basically getting principles and like becoming a more mature tactician makes more sense to me than him going off and like freewheeling on his own and buying gel to spike his hair.
Yeah. Like his relationship with Denam never makes sense. In the Chaos Path, eventually, he ends up getting used in a way that I kind of like. Like he dies, he gets executed because he's used by your uncle. Ultimately, in the end, and I ended up feeling like that was a fitting end.
Yeah.
For this shithead Vice, but it doesn't like whatever put him on the shithead path was dumb as hell.
Yeah.
So let's go into chapter 3 here before we reconverge onto chapter 4.
Yes. So we go to chapter 3 of the law version, which is called Deceiver and Deceived. Kind of the opening for this here. Denam has risen to the head of the resistance. Bakram and the Dark Knights basically keep their distance. Galgastan and Duke Balbados are still a factor here. They're actually making an advance on Almorica, since in the weakness, basically because all the leadership is dead, and they're led by this boy who barely looks old enough to shave, as many people say in the story. Superboy, yes.
Yeah, Superboy is the leader.
Yes. We have elsewhere, we've got evil Lancelot Tartaros, just really laying into the Dark Knight Barbas for advancing into Rhyme, like essentially just on a personal vendetta against Lancelot Hamilton. And Barbas is instead sent to Heim to hunt for this missing Albuna, who's going to be very important later in chapter 4. So we've got these two Dark Knights, Oz and Ozma, who are sent to break up the Liberation Front. We're going to find them a little bit later. At Almorica, Denam and Vice have gathered together, and we are starting to formulate this plan to attack Galgastan at Coritane. From the rear, not going up the Sonji Wheel where they're going to expect us, but Vice has learned about this vulnerability. We have to basically take a boat around the other side of the continent and advance from the frozen Madura Drift. So basically, like, we're going to attack Moscow by going through Siberia, right? Mm-hmm. And as Denam is getting ready to leave, Cachua makes one last plea, saying, don't go, because I'm not going to go with you. This is madness. I can't stand the idea of losing you. Basically offers an ultimatum. And the conflict escalates. She says, you need to, like, I don't understand why you don't want to avenge our father. We both saw him die. He was, this conflict took him away from us. And she drops this revelation that, he wasn't even, like, related to us. We were adopted. And Denam doesn't think that matters, but she absolutely thinks it does. And he leaves her behind. Mm-hmm. So we get on the road to Coritane. Most of the battles on the way there are not that huge of a deal. Like the snow weather effect makes projectiles a little bit more difficult. We've got to go through Brigantis Castle. This is the first time where we are given an option of how to approach like one of these major stronghold areas. The multi-area dungeon kind of things.
Maps, yeah.
Yeah. So like the west wall has this huge moat that like rewards you for having flying units, but will really punish you if you have slow units, like say archers or clerics or any of the things that you have been forced to rely on. So like you end up on this slow march across these small islands while the enemies rain fire on you. The south wall is a much more direct approach, just a switchback up to a castle gate. The west wall is a sucker's trap. Here though, at Brigantis, we have a knight who we fought before. We have Hector, who is in here to make his final great stand. This kind of starts a new genre of fight, which is the crowded throne room fight. So this is not the duel, but it's like, here is a leader with a bunch of really high level, casters and fighters around them. So, and they're complicating some of these decapitate the enemy missions with just tons of healers. But after this, Hector's father, meets him, hands over the castle, and we have, basically we are forced to decide what to do with the prisoners that Galgastan has taken, and like we were given a choice, like they ask, what are we going to do? Are these our enemy? And you can answer yes, have them killed, or no, like how could they be our enemy? Galgastan, Galgastan are the ones who locked them up. We know that we have no quarrel. Answering that gets you your first dragoon. You've got a character named Junin who joins up with you. I ended up leveling Junin, which was good because dragon enemies and beast enemies are no joke. So I was happy to have that here as opposed to, having a non-specialized dragoon that I just got through a class mark. But yeah, you end up with him. I missed the ability to recruit Ravnus. Just, it is so difficult. You they're like the flags that you have to trip in order to get a lot of these. Just not very good. So Junin was my only real acquisition here. And it's good because the recent way is this map you have to go down. It's like a road and you have these dragons off to the side. Did you end up fucking around with dragoons at all? Like, how did you end up dealing with dragons?
Putting them to sleep or charming them and then saving them for the end.
Okay.
Like, I know it's a boring thing, but it was effective and it didn't involve grinding. So like, I never had a recruit dragoon. I started leveling one up before I kind of realized what their steez was.
Yeah.
And like, the idea of a beast slayer was interesting to me because they are a problem. This runs into another kind of like minor nitpick I have with Let Us Cling Together, which is that there's no way to gather intelligence. So specialized units are automatically kind of a bummer because I don't know whether I'm going to be fighting dragons.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, and they're an okay fighter if you're not fighting dragons, but do I want to put in all the time to class mark grind a dragoon up if, you know, I'm going to be fighting mostly humans for a while.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't know at this point how big a deal dragons were going to be to the end Mega Dungeon. Or I probably would have spent more time on them. But again, I just kind of didn't, you know, and just, you know, when you have sleep charm petrify, everything looks like something that can be sleep charmed or petrified.
Right.
Like that is how I handled all of the big damage beast units and then just took out the humans and then took those guys out afterwards.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I'll talk about what happens at court today before I hand it over back to you. But there's not too much like about the fights that you go in. Like the gates have this moat that force you either on the slow path or they funnel you over to a bridge. Again, pretty much every fight that you're at, assume that the enemy has a height advantage on you at the start. It is the exception when you have that advantage. Inside the Coritine ward, you have this throne room battle again. You have just, you know, tons and tons of high level enemies. And this is tougher because that knight escaped my war crime. So, you know, he's here. He is still high level for this encounter, like even with the scaling. When you get to Balbatos up in his war room there, instead of giving you the satisfaction of capturing him or, you know, having him surrender or killing him, he instead kills himself. You know, he just stabs himself and makes a real point of saying, I'm denying you the pleasure of this. And Denam is like, okay, I guess that's Galgastan taken care of.
Well,
yeah. And he's like, I wonder how Vice is doing. No, it turns out that Vice is being tortured and whipped by a knight named Sir Zabos.
Hey, yeah, Zabos shows up.
Yeah.
Zabos is a big part of my thing, and I forgot about, like, I didn't really know where Zabos came from, but he's extremely important. Like, Chapter 3 in the Chaos Path is all Zabos and Necromancers.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
But Zabos is pretty discouraged the fact that he's got that Coritine has fallen, the Hierophant has fallen. He was like, this was not part of the plan. So he decides, okay, I'm going to send my men to march on Almorica. And that's going to be kind of our next goal here. How does Chapter 3 open for you?
Chapter 3, ambition and greed rule while wild dogs and swine serve.
Wow. That's a title.
Good phrasing. So it's 4 weeks after the end. The back room have started to advance, but Lancelot has stopped them.
Okay.
Good Lancelot there. Ronway is kind of holed up in his castle, and he's seeing all of his surrounding holdings getting raided. So he sends an envoy to the Dark Knights.
Not a wine boy?
To delay them from... yes, a wine boy. Okay. To the Dark Knights to stop them from taking the field or slow them. And Denam went into hiding. Leonard has been dispatched to assassinate me.
Gotcha.
So we start off with this little cutscene where the Dark Knights are hanging out. And the same thing, they're giving the one who participated in the slaughter of the civilians shit. You know, hey, we were supposed to be neutral. They get a messenger in here, and it's Vice, who is a schemy little like brat. He's like the puppet on Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Ronnie.
You know, he's very, very Ronnie, and he's like, you know, I have good news for you. And it you know, cuts away. You know, for that.
Yeah.
We go back to Port Assaton where I've been hiding out, and me and Katwa are fighting. She's like, you know, during this whole time, you've never considered me. And like, I legit don't know what she's talking about.
Yes.
During this. Again, talking about undermotivated Quechua, like, do not understand. We we legit get interrupted by a bounty hunter. Like, we're inside a house and there's a knock on, there's like people from outside yelling like, hey, there's a bounty hunter here. Come do another bounty hunter battle. Like, I go outside. I'm like, okay, I'll be there in a minute. And then I go out and do it. It's fucking wild. It's a guy named Gannon. And he was friends with Zepan, I guess. And
okay.
I love the way this world works, because if anybody dies, they just say Denam did it. Like, Vice killed him, and he's just like, you're the one who killed Zapan. And I'm like, no, I didn't. He's like, foul words from a foul tongue. And then like draws his sword. And I'm like, fuck, man. Everyone believes everything. In this, at one point later in this chapter, Vice shows up and goes, yeah, I'm with the Resistance. And they're like, oh, good, a message from the Resistance. I'm like, what the fuck, man? Like, you have to take everybody at their word.
God, that's really fucking funny.
Yeah, it's I go to the Ziad Moors after I leave here, another a group of Almoricans who want the bounty.
Okay.
Take them out, no problem. And this is where people start saying like, oh, you just want power. And I'm like, no, I don't. I want peace. And people are like, no, you just really want power. Let me kill you. And then you're like, well, I'll kill you. And they're like, haha, traitor. I'm like, what are you talking about?
You know what?
Yeah.
Like Denam in the Chaos Route, he's Jeremy Piven's character from Smoking Aces.
He's I've never seen Smoking Aces, but I will. If I ever see it, I'll be like, this is Denam.
It's a very bad and dumb movie about like this rich guy who has a bunch of assassins after him.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I've never seen the Smoking Aces.
I just wanted to reference Smoking Aces because it's one of those
Smoking Aces.
It's one of those inherently funny movies to me.
This is also again, like, I get to the gates of Cortana, or whatever, and there's a guy named Gildora here who's like, you're Wallister Resistance, and I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm
more complicated
like,
than that.
Yeah. And he's like, so I go like, he says, fuck you, and then you appeal to his men, and I was like, oh, this would be a cool opportunity for like some of the story stuff to have an impact on the battle. Like, I'm like, he's like, if you won't listen to reason, maybe your men will, and they basically all just say they're too racist. Like, we're not going to rest until the seas run red with Wallister blood.
Right.
Like, okay, I get in. There are more Galgastani remnants here, led by Zabos, who believes I'm working for the Duke and runs away. Mm-hmm. We get in and get to the castle and capture this castle. Zabos has escaped here, and he's basically planning. There's all these people who had spoke against Barbados who he has as hostages.
Okay.
But the prisoners I've taken tell me this and say like, hey, he's planning to use them as hostages, but if someone comes to the castle, he's going to kill them all and like decorate the walls with them as a war crime. So we have to go stop this.
Yeah.
And then this is where Quechua leaves. And again, I don't know why. She comes up and she says, you never considered me. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You've been by my side this entire time.
Oh.
And she's like, yeah, but you never actually thought about me. All you care about is war. And all you care about is our father. And then this is where she drops oh yeah, he wasn't really our father.
Okay.
Bit for me. And then she leaves, like, Quechua out for quite a while for me until chapter 4.
Right.
So yeah, and that's basically where this ends, and it's confusing. Mm-hmm. I do not really understand. Like, I like the unapologetic complexity of Matsuno plots, like, a lot. This is where every faction is subdivided into multiple miniature factions enough to where I am having a hard time keeping it keeping it straight. And it doesn't help that chapter 3, like, I'm going to go do a subplot with necromancers now for my next act. And it doesn't, it feels very like, I guess if I would have spared one of those necromancers early on, this would have made sense. Mm-hmm. But like, the necromancers and their necromantic research could not be further away from what it feels like the story is about.
Yes.
To me.
Yeah. So like, yes, there is like the complexity here. I also think that there are just like themes or ideas that are basically just taken as read, that of course this is the way that it would be, without actually examining them. Specifically the idea that blood is more important than anything. The idea that regardless of like the material reality, like, I am going to be compelled to act because you are Wallister and I am Bakram. You know, like that, you know, you
Yes.
have Kachua, you know, who seems to be motivated entirely by whether or not you're actually related. I just like, I wish that would be explored, you know, and that is explored in other Matsuno works, right? Like it's an important part of, you know, Final Fantasy Tactics again to bring that out.
Well, it's explored and rejected.
Yes.
In Final Fantasy Tactics in a way that is really important.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, like that is a garbage thought.
Yes.
You know, the idea that like blood matters more than like what somebody is, like that is a pretty outdated idea, I think. Not that family is unimportant, but like if you have somebody you've lived with and you're very close to them, it doesn't matter if you're not like technically related.
Yeah.
You know, like what is the point of you know, that's not very in fashion or modern as an idea to care about.
Yeah.
And in Final Fantasy Tactics, like the characters who really care about that's played up as fake. Like, oh, you know, she's not even, you know, really your sister. She's your half sister. Why should you care? And Ramza rejects that.
Yes.
Like Ramza's like, no, that doesn't matter. And you reject it the entire time.
Yeah.
And here it's played up as actually kind of a question when it should be rejected wholeheartedly because it's dumb as hell. Like the result of them dipping their toe in that theme without doing anything with it just ended up making me think Kachua was an idiot.
Yeah.
And that I don't think that was the intent. I think I was meant to think she had an argument.
Yeah, it's like by bringing these themes in and then not explaining them or or not dwelling on them or criticizing them or even like exploring them very thoroughly, all it does is like cast this pallor over the entire story that like, yes, everybody just kind of has these bad motivations. And you know, it could have been an opportunity to explore those themes. I have no idea if that is in the original writing, if it's in the translation, like where that fell down, but it's definitely present here in the work.
Well, and it's frustrating because there's an element of like gilding the lily or like throwing a bunch of unrelated flowers next to the lily in like all of Matsuno's work.
Yeah.
Which like I understand respecting the maximalism of it. But even though, you know, he's made some games I really, really love, every single one of them has some stuff it doesn't need to have, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So like the central theme of this, the idea of this game, like, you know, all of these people have reasonable motivations and it's the common people who suffer for war.
Yes.
You know, this works really well as like an anti-war kind of thing. And that's like the good subplot, like the line that runs through this in Final Fantasy Tactics, this whole idea that like, yeah, like this is all moving pieces around on a chessboard, but it has real effects.
Yeah, giants fight and regular people get stomped. Yeah,
exactly. You know, and they do that in big and small ways, right? Like you look at this and you have our main characters. You look at Final Fantasy Tactics, and you have like Rafa and Malik, you know, who are like war orphans taken in by, you know, the pervert, you know, who was able to take advantage because they were war orphans and stuff. And then, but he can't help but just throw in some magic garbage or throw in this family garbage. You know, like the what if Jesus was fake stuff in Final Fantasy Tactics is the weakest part of that plot.
Yeah.
And this one, the like, what does family mean? Also, get real invested with the Dark Knights.
Yes.
Like, care a lot about whether they get routed or not. Both just dilute the story quite a bit for this. And I would have been a much stronger work at like 30% less length and 30% more focus on, you know, on that plot.
Yeah. Less
it's a weird thing. I remember
impact.
I didn't get like I've never beaten Final Fantasy 12, but I remember that being a Final Fantasy 12 thing as well. Like feeling like, God, get back to the fucking like main thrust of this.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it changes scope in a way that I ended up not liking when near where I fell off.
Yeah, yeah. When it starts becoming about Venat more than the judges. Yeah.
Yeah. And just like, yeah, I just don't like focus. Fucker. Like, and that's why part of why I love Crimson Shroud so much is because it's 6 hours long.
Yeah.
Like there is no lack of focus in that. It's a short story that suggests a longer world and you don't need to go beyond that. Like that game has its problems, but it's not like, it doesn't have the Matsuno problem.
Yeah.
You know, that most of his works have. So.
Yeah. Tell you what, I've been real tempted to try out Vagrant Story.
Yeah. I played that back when it came out and I was a different person. Like I need to try it again. I'm real curious as to, you know, if having one character and having it compared to like a dungeon structure might rein that in a little bit.
Yeah.
That's a WoF game. I haven't replayed that because I feel like we'll do it at some point.
Yeah.
Definitely, eager for a Matsuno break, but that would be a good, summer Matsuno game at some point.
Are you a Skrull?
I like a good story.
No, just eager for a Matsuno break. That's not a thing I would expect Gary Butterfield to ever say.
Well, there's only one other game he's done that I haven't played. I just like this is a weird thing. It's like a cranky making game, and like Matsuno is one of those guys. Like now that I have played this, where I'm like, Final Fantasy Tactics top 5 game forever. Like love that game. Mm-hmm. I really like Crimson Shroud, even though it's slight. Mm-hmm. I think this is pretty all right. It runs the gamut for me.
Yeah.
It's not like something I just love him in general. I love his specific steez. Mm-hmm. The execution, though, is hit and miss for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll pick up here. So where we left off, I had heard that Almorica was in some trouble here. So we have an option. We can either go through the Sonji Weald or Lake Bordu, these two different areas. I didn't look and see what the Sonji Weald had. However, Lake Bordu, boy, oh boy, lots of undead. This is the start of like encounters where you go in with several undead who are stilled on the map.
So it's kind of like a timer.
Yeah, on your side. So either you eat a lot of magic leaves and send your priests out to start exercising them, or they get up behind you as you are dealing with another new enemy on the far side, these cockatrices, which being petrified is not a death for you, but it does take people out of commission for a very long time.
Yeah.
Yep. At Tynamouth Hill, as we're passing by, we have a rematch with Gamp, the Beastmaster that we fought in Chapter 1. People should be asking, where is Gamp? What's Gamp doing? Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's got some new griffins to try out on us.
Yep, I've recruited some more.
Yeah, so, I bottle fed these griffins.
Yeah, please kill them so I'll run away.
Please. And this is where we get the cutscene. We cut away to the port where Kachua is swayed over. We have her standing by the water in rhyme, and just kind of like talking out loud. I miss Denam. I wish that he wouldn't have left me so alone. Yeah, why did I give him an ultimatum?
I made a huge mistake. Why did I fuck up so bad?
Yeah. Oh, but then bad Lancelot, the Dark Knight Lancelot Tartaros, starts to sneak up, and he hisses and he drips a little bit of poison in her ear, by saying, "Oh, you were always alone. You never had a brother. Your parents died after your birth. That's, what happened to you. The man you thought was your father isn't. You knew that. You knew you were adopted, but you have no idea what your blood actually says about you or what you are. You're not related to Denam at all. In fact, you are the rightful daughter of King Dorgula. The rightful daughter. You are Versalia Oberith. Your dad is the former king of Valeria. He fathered
and Oberith are literally the money that we trade. Like when we do battles, you get Oberiths to trade for Goth, like the new currency.
Yeah.
So like your name is literally on the money, or her name is literally on money.
Yeah, it's like in Elder Scrolls when you get septums.
Exactly.
Yeah. So and she's doing the whole say it isn't so, it can't be, it's impossible. But yeah, her dad was the former king of Valeria. He fathered the prince. He fathered the prince with the queen. But also, like kings did, he had a side piece in the queen's handmaiden Manaflora. He had sex with Manaflora, and the queen exiled her. And Kashua was born in exile. And taken in first by Branton, who was just an abuna in the church, right? Took her in and then placed her with a priest, that eventually ended up being the person that raised both Denam and Kashua. the priest named her Cashua because he had recently lost a daughter who was named Cashua, which seems like a real fucked up thing to do. Hi, you're Cashua too.
Yeah.
But so this priest got the baby while Branton had the secret of the baby, and basically a piece of blackmail on the king, and used that to rise through the church. And when the king passed away after the queen and the prince died, and the whole civil war started, he took the reins of what became the faction at Backroom, and just basically he could have ended this at any time by saying, oh, there's an actual rightful heir, but he decided to use his knowledge, bury that, and try and take over Valeria for himself. He proves this by correctly identifying what her necklace is inscribed with. It's a little royal phrase or whatever. Lancelot then says, hey, we're going to take you to Heim. We need to get you set up to actually take over Valeria.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
Does any version of that happen in your story?
All of that happens.
All of that happens.
That exact cutscene happens.
Cool.
For me.
Okay. So at least we have that motivation. She gets, she is caught alone by Lancelot and revealed some truths that change her behavior. Gotcha.
Yes. So all that happens.
Yeah.
It happens at a different time. It happens a little bit later because I had to go do some necromancer nonsense. But.
Yeah. This little middle portion ends with Denam taking Almorica again. Gates the same as all the previous times, but this is the first time I made a note of reinforcements arriving. So not only is every battlefield way too crowded, just at certain turns, the enemy forces will be replaced. So fun.
Yeah.
We kill Zabos in the passage. It's not too special, although there is a recruitable necromancer here who I missed. It would have been cool to have a necromancer to mess around with, especially later on in the dungeons. But no. Oh well, I missed it.
Apparently they're very good.
Yes.
But I did not. I got I found a mark for one at some point, but I did not. I think, but I did not ever recruit one.
Yep. No, I never found any marks for it, so that was a bummer. So we kill Zabos, and we have Almorica again, and we convene with Vice and two of Lancelot's mercenary friends. They end up being two white knights who join us. Just basically knights with some more white magic that's available to them. They haven't seen Lancelot since the attack on Rhyme, so he has been lost. Warren is also missing. They're little astromancer kind of guy.
They're sage.
Yeah.
The guy who the Warren report, the thing that we keep looking at.
Yes. Yeah. So the only move left for us is, now that Galgastan is taken care of, we need to take the fight to Backroom at Phydock Castle. Vice again knows a back way to catch them by surprise, again from all of his time in the Liberation Front. And so Vice, Aracel, and the rest of the mercenaries join for us to make this final press up to Phydock. Yeah. And now I want to hear about some necromancer bullshit.
It's not good or anything. None of this is good. The rest of chapter 3 is pretty rough for Chaos. So we are Quechua leaves and we're going to go chase after her. On the way, we run into the necromancers. They're the two necromancer daughters.
Okay.
Are here. There's a little bit of their philosophy. We're hey, you pervert the dead. And they're well, if you ever talk to the dead, they want to keep fighting. So
have you ever stopped to think about what the dead want?
No. So we take them out, and then it becomes this weird revenge chain because when I then go to the next set map, there are more necromancers, and they want revenge for the first necromancer that I killed. This is where Hector shows up for me.
Okay.
He was married to the necro daughter I just killed. So we take him out as he tells the other sister to flee to their father.
Okay.
What is his name? Nebeth or whatever.
Nebeth, yeah.
Naibath. We get a little cutover to Heim, where Branton is there, our uncle of the Bakram. He's got a Dark Knight advisor, and he's like, I'm going to get involved in the fight. The Dark Knight tells him not to. Vice shows up and says, like, I'm a messenger. They're like, oh, I'll kill you. And Vice says, would you kill the messenger before you heard his message? I'm with the resistance. He's like, okay. And then Vice says, these words are only for you, not for the Dark Knight. And Brandon goes, okay. And sends the Dark Knight away.
What a piece of dipshit.
It's so dumb.
Ooh,
extremely
a can
dumb.
of beer nuts. Yeah.
Very similar. My eye. Very similar. So we're making our way into this castle with a couple nonsense fights. Naibath is in the castle, talking to his daughter. But he ends up fleeing. Again, talking about completing his work. Like he says, the war doesn't matter. We just need to complete our research. And I was just like, what game are you in? And then Zebos is there, and we go to fight him. He drops some like truth. He's like, the Duke doesn't like you because your hands are clean. Like he's had to get his hands dirty, but he knows as soon as you show up in front of the people, they're going to rally to you because you've been a good guy.
Okay.
But that won't last. Like somebody has to do the shit, do the garbage.
Yeah.
It's the natural order of things, like, and basically says a version of like, if I can convince the poorest white man that the richest white man that the poorest black man is better off than he is. Mm-hmm. Basically says like, yeah, if we can convince the oppressed people that there are people who have it worse, like if we can get them to see they're dead, they'll always be grateful for what you give them.
Yes.
Good dialogue. Again, that's why I'm here because of Matsuno, because like, that shit's good. I murder him, and the Galgasani show up, and I, basically convince them to join my side, these ones who show up.
Okay.
They're like, well, what do you do if you become a tyrant? I say, well, I'll kill myself. Okay. I head back out to Almorca. There's a little side path where I fail to recruit a swordmaster.
Is this Hoberim or?
I do not remember his name.
He's a blind guy?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I get him in chapter 3. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. I failed to recruit him. He was far away.
Yep.
In Almorica, we get a little cutaway to Ronway where he's talking about he has a pact with the Dark Knights.
Okay. How's that turn out for him?
It's not great.
Yeah.
He gets murdered pretty soon. Yeah. And then I'm going to go, my final little bit here is in Courtenay and Rhyme on my way up there.
Okay.
Lots of nothing fights.
Yeah.
I fight a guy named Marino at the gates. And on my way in, Marino is nothing.
Yeah, I think I end up
Yeah.
fighting Marino as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So then I have my final little stretch after that.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, so you just like literally go through the entire Naibath family like they're the O'Doyles from Billy Madison.
Basically, like they all go, and I could have one of them, if I wanted, but I was good.
Yeah,
did not recruit because recruiting sucks.
Yes,
in this game.
Yeah.
So.
So I'll talk about pressing the fight up to Bakram at Fidok. So we have to go through a volcano called Mount Weary. This is the hardest battle to date for me. This is full of dragons and reptiles who both have huge resistances. And additionally, we have undead around, specifically these phantoms and little imps that like harry you from the map's edge. Mount Weary is a real problem. Additionally, because of the lava, like sometimes when there's water, characters can like rest in it if it's if it is shallow enough. There is no like lava walk skill that you can get here. Yeah. So
the worst geomancer skill does not exist.
No,
in this,
which I should probably be thankful for that. But yeah, Mount Weary is the hardest battle until one that I will talk about later. But we get a cutscene back at Heim, at the seat of Backroom's power. Lord Branton is just furious to hear that we're on the march. So he orders this attack on Amorica, and the Dark Knights are like, no, I don't think we're going to do that. That's kind of some bullshit. And this is kind of the start of a breakdown in the relationship between the Dark Knights and Backroom specifically. They only, the alliance was already pretty loose. and here it will be, shortly shattered. Yeah. So we reach Rhyme, the Arcopolis. This is the battle where you can recruit Hoberim, the Swordmaster. Swordmaster is an interesting and very specialized kind of class. So like it has basically the Berserker's damage and defense. So it doesn't end up, being able to take a lot of hits, but they have a power called Preempt, which when active for a couple of turns means that basically you get a free counter in front of an attack when people attack you. And then you can also get a counter on the other side. So like they move to attack, you attack them, they attack you, then you get a counter attack, which basically means you put them into these really precarious situations and use the enemy's attacks against them, which is really interesting. However, he's very fragile, which is a problem. Additionally, they have war dances, which are like these area of effect buffs that you can do. However, they require both TP and consumable like fans that you have to have with you. Basically, they're doing these like little fan dances, and it ends up being very costly for not a hugely great effect. It was interesting to play around with, but I kind of regret bringing him in and giving him experience. So, oops.
Yeah, the internet warned me off.
Yeah.
Those guys. Basically, like, I was considering getting one because I wanted to try the new kind of magic. I'd seen the war dances.
Yes.
For sale. But, yeah.
Yes. But like there's a side story here. Like there's a fight, you have Hoberim. He's being hassled by some backroom guards. We've got the Dark Knight Ozma who stumbles in, like recognizes him, like they have a past. There are some like optional things you can do to recruit Ozma. Like, she could be turned from the Dark Knights. But I didn't end up figuring that out. But Denam arrives, starts the battle. Orders her troops not to attack Hoberim, but they do not listen. So you end up having to save him anyway. Yeah.
Cool.
And when you win, Ozma warps away, basically saying, I need to find out what happened to him from Balzephan, because he lied to me and said that Hoberim was dead. Yeah.
Balzephan's not great.
No, he's kind of a piece of shit.
Yeah.
So we reach Phaidot Castle. And again, we have two options of approach. Both end up playing about the same. I didn't notice too much of a difference between them. Like when I went and did a research, I even forget which one I took. And when you get into the Great Hall, it's empty. But for Kashua, who is dressed up like Dark Kashua, she is, instead of being in a white dress, she's in a black dress, and she's wearing like a funeral veil. And when Denam goes to like hug her, she slashes at him with a sword. And Lancelot Tartaros comes out with Oz and with Balzephan saying, hey, we're going to be taking Kashua, me and Ozma are going to go, and meanwhile Balzephan and Oz will fight you. And this culminates in this huge battle in a throne room, which is a very interesting kind of arena. There's like a staircase to the left going to an upper floor. Upstairs you have Balzephan, and downstairs you have Oz, who is kind of surrounded by these Terror Knights. And Balzephan just kind of like spends most of the fight taunting you, just basically like throwing your war crimes back at you. And I love the line that Denam says, like, quit reminding me of the blood on my shield. I'm fully aware.
Yes. Listen, I know, buddy.
Yeah. But both of them warp away. I think Oz dies, but Balzephan, he's too much of a bastard to go down easy. The chapter ends, with Denam saying, like, why? Why would Kashua do this? Why would Kashua betray us?
Good question.
Yeah.
Good question. So when I get to the castle, Leonar is there, and basically asked me if I've been red pilled yet. Like, have you been disillusioned yet? Or are you still an idealist? I'm like, oh, I'm still an idealist. So he starts talking about how you have to be practical and stuff, and starts centristing me.
Okay.
This is an interesting fight because you have a choice of dueling him or bringing in your people, which will cause him to bring in people.
Oh, huh.
At this point, I chose to duel him, and it was like much easier than the duel with Vice.
Yeah.
Pretty easy. And when I kill him, he admits, like, he's like, listen, you were right the whole time. Listen, the Duke has made this pact with the Dark Knights. His plan is to bend the knee to Lodis and get granted land when they take over.
Okay.
Like, so he's
going to sell us
alliance.
out. Yeah.
So that's, I'm like, okay. He goes, you have to go stop him. I'm like, all right, buddy, you should have done that already, but okay. I go to Mount Weobree with Ganap, which is also real hard for me.
Okay.
And I get the scene where the Dark Knights tell Cachua who she really is.
Okay.
As well. It sounds exactly the same as yours.
Okay.
When I get to Rhyme at this point, I'm there, but they don't see me. I see the Duke show up with Vice and the Dark Knights. The Dark Knights end up betraying the Duke, kind of staying put. Vice says, like, hey, come to me, Duke, and then stabs him in the stomach. So there are backroom there as well. It's like this weird, like, Mexican standoff kind of thing.
Yeah.
But the Duke gets killed, leaving his natural, habitat. Vice gets taken by the Dark Knights. They actually kidnap him at this point.
Oh, okay.
So stuff's going to happen with that here in a minute. He says, like, hey, it was all Brandon's idea. I was just working for him. I was a double agent, and he's very pathetic at this point. And there's a fight in here too. I had to fight the backrooms that are left over. But he's very pathetic, and evil Lancelot is like, he's like, where's your honor? And like, Vice is like, my honor is whatever you want it to be. Like, just let me live, he's very pathetic. He goes, okay, like, get out of my sight. They banish Vice. I go tell Morica and take over at this point. And this is where I get my army of resistance people.
Okay.
I find Warren here. He's very sick. He's in bed. Mirrodin and Gildus, the two knights, join me as well.
Okay.
We find out that the Dark Knights are heading to Boed, so I have to go check it out. I go to Boed and I fight Oz and Ozma instead of Oz and Balthazar or whatever.
Yep.
They're both huge jerks. Like, Oz is all like, which one would you like to lose, your tongue or your eye? They're just slimy. I know you can recruit Ozma here, but I did not do it. Mm-hmm. They're trying to find the Abuna, the person who is our adopted father or what have you, who can confirm this.
Okay.
And they're trying to find Mana Flora. And the reason being, I think, is that they want to lend credence to Cachua's claim to the throne.
So, wait, is Manaflora alive, or do they mistakenly believe Manaflora is alive?
I think they believe so.
Okay.
Like, I think that they're not. I think they mention trying to get a hold of her, but it's been longer since I've played this than you, so I might be. I know they talk about her here because I refreshed my memories by looking at the script, but I do not recall exactly what comes of this.
Yes.
So I do not know. I meet Snarky Cachua as well.
Okay.
She leaves. She's Dark Cachua. And then there's a little scene in Heim where Vice is executed. As he was banished, the Backrams caught him, and he begs for his life, and like an Abuna blesses him as he gets his head cut off.
Jesus.
The end for him, which I did not do, is actually you can go back and get a wrap up to the Nibeth necromancer plot.
Oh, is this
an optional thing?
Like the Necromancer's Tower or something like that, or Dungeon of the Dead? It's like 100 levels.
No, it's not Dungeon of the Dead. It's just a normal. I think it's where you first fight the Necromancer.
Oh, okay.
But if you want, you can get closure on the Necromancer plot, and he brings Vice back to kill you as a zombie.
Oh, okay.
I just read about that. I didn't do it though because I didn't do any side quests in this.
Oof.
Because it's long enough. But that's it. He has, like, I actually kind of like his incredibly ignoble end of him, trying to play all sides against each other and ultimately just getting hung out to dry because he was a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Even if I didn't like how he turned into a piece of shit, I feel like this is an appropriate end for Vice.
Yeah. Somebody who acts like that, this is what would happen to them. Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck that guy.
Yeah. No dignity. None at all.
Yeah. Yep. no dignity for you. But like the chapter is pretty disappointing. Like chapter 2 chaos is a little bit better. Chapter 3 chaos is pretty lame.
Yeah.
And some good stuff's going to happen in chapter 4. And then the whole back half of it is just like one unending dungeon about getting the Dark Knights.
Yes.
And it's a bummer. So let's converge onto Let Us Cling Together.
So the opening cutscene, kind of sets the stage for some time has passed. Dark Knight Lancelot is kind of staging his coup here. He has gone public with the news about Cachua's parentage. Basically, come out and saying, despair not, Valeria, because we have a true monarch for you. The succession struggle can end. Backroom is irrelevant at this point. And the people are not content at all with this. Like they pretty much know exactly that Cashua will be nothing but a puppet to Lancelot, and this is just trying to pacify them before Lodis rolls in and slaughters everybody.
Yep. And I'm glad the scene was in both of ours because I like this. Dark Knight Lancelot, after like goes into his little torture cave where he is like torturing good Lancelot. Mm-hmm. He caught him and he basically says like, listen, mankind is always going to flock to a strong leader. They recognize that they can never take power themselves.
Right.
Basically the argument of the founding fathers for the Electoral College.
Right.
To him. And good Lancelot says, no, the people will surprise you.
Mm-hmm.
Cachua shows up and is like, hey, Denam abandoned me, so I abandoned him back. None of that happened, Cachua.
Yeah, no. I don't know what events you are talking about.
What you're referring to. Yeah. The side game that came out, like the Japanese only cell phone game that detail the visual novel that detailed Cachua's inner monologue that we didn't get here or something.
Tactics Ogre, light novel, less clean together.
Yes.
So back at I think either Phydock or Almorica, Denham's getting this briefing, and things are pretty bad, with the uprising that he is leading. Like his men, the Wallister, and all of the remnants that he has managed to put together, they do not have it in them to go and take the war to the daughter of their former king, this beloved king whose loss was so devastating that it threw the entire continent into war. They weep openly at the idea of raising a blade against her. So that's a morale problem. We have an attendant come in, and this is the first we have heard of them, but kind of the religious order here worships somebody, this mythical figure named Philaha. They have taken some hostages at Brigantis Castle in the north, and they demand that we surrender to Backroom and end the war, saying just no more bloodshed. And Denham says, okay, we need to stop this from happening because we can't lose the church. I will go and talk with them. And we'll see if we can get this resolved.
So we head on over to do so. We approach Brigantis. There are knights and clerics keeping us at bay here. So there's fights, Tactics Ogre-esque fights.
Yep, on the lead up.
I didn't know this. Did you manage to do this?
No.
I just read about this. It's neat, but I felt a little cheated when I read about it because I felt like the game had not suggested that this kind of thing was possible. But I do think this is cool.
Yeah, but like Denham says, I will go alone and carrying no blade, and they will let me in. And I was like, okay, that'll just happen automatically. We're going to see. And I was frustrated that it turned into a fight. No, what you have to do is send Denham into the fight alone at the front gate of the castle, completely unequipped, and you can avoid the fight at Brigantis with the religious order.
Yeah, I think that's neat.
Yeah,
I didn't. The game didn't seem like it was going to operate on that level really mechanically, so I did not think it would be possible.
Yes,
but yeah,
same.
Neat. So you get inside this great hall. The fighting stops here, where the priestess Livia shows up and says like, hey, Abuna Prancet, Denham's father, is here. They found him in the Corpse Vale of Heim, Dark Souls title card.
Yeah.
And a place where those are afflicted with a plague and disease are kept.
Right.
So very cool.
Yeah. And so you go back to speak with your father on his deathbed. And he provides kind of some more background about Cashua's birth. He is, shocked that, A, he's alive, and B, that Cashua has basically turned on everything here. Says, yeah, Manaflora, she had gone to the queen to ask for a short leave. We actually see this. Like, this is a cutscene. And Queen Vernata slaps her. And, as a result of this, I love the animation here. It's incredibly good because the queen slaps her and Manaflora immediately moves her hand to her stomach. And this is when the queen realizes that Manaflora is pregnant. Like she had suspected it, but like that gesture of moving her hand to her stomach was everything that she needed to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really
and
cool.
This causes the exile.
Yep. She's exiled. Prancet delivers the baby. And the idea, the baby is originally going to be named Venetia. Prancet brings the baby to Brandon. Manaflora passed in childbirth, of course.
Yep.
Brandon says the queen's not going to take the child. She's having her own daughter soon. She doesn't want this reminder of this infidelity.
Right.
You keep the daughter. Replace your dead daughter, Cachua. Here's a Cachua 2 for you.
Be a little bit more careful with this one, please.
Yeah. So this is you only get 4 more strikes. Brandon gives Prancet the 2 necklaces, one's red, one blue, and these are equipable items. This is what we had in our item slot. The whole game to kind of tie them together.
Yeah.
The king intended them to go to a prince and princess, but you can have them sell these so you can pay to raise these kids.
Yes.
And of course you don't.
No.
Point.
It's an important reminder. And of course, Brandon takes the secret, does his whole ascension thing, as we talked about. Prancet, it's like the question is raised. If you knew this, if you knew that handing Cashua over or Venetia over or whoever she is would end the war, why didn't you do it? And he basically says, I couldn't have done that. I couldn't part with the girl who called me dad. Incredibly heartbreaking.
I probably should not have named her Cashua.
Probably.
Not named her after my dead daughter.
Right.
That probably caused a lot of attachment issues.
Yeah. So, and, he stayed with Cashua and, the island fell to war.
Yeah. And as much as people, in comparison to Final Fantasy Tactics, Tactics Ogre is a more grounded, game in terms of politics, but Matsuno can't not throw in the supernatural thing at the very end,
right,
of his games. It happens later here than Final Fantasy Tactics, but it definitely happens because Prancet says the Dark Knights aren't just trying to rule the land. If they have Cachua's blood, they can open the sealed tomb of the king and grab a powerful magical artifact.
Yes. Dorgula. I always want to call him King Dragula.
Yeah. None of it sounds cool. Dorgula is also, or Dorgula. All of them sound dumb.
Yes. But it is his legacy is what they are after. So it is something that will make Lodis even more dangerous.
Yes.
Yeah. So Prancet says, you need to save Cashua. You need to put her on the throne. That's what, that's where she belongs. That will be best for everybody. But moreover, we need to get these Dark Knights out of here and keep whatever is in that tomb out of Lodisian hands,
Yeah.
So, our first step in doing this, we need to find this former archpriest of the church, Maruva. Maruva. And as he gives us kind of that last little directive, Prancet dies.
Yep. We head out into the Great Hall where Olivia's there, and she has more news. She says, "Oh yeah, while we're dropping family bombs, Prancet and Branton are brothers. Mm-hmm. You are not Denam Patel, you're Denam Morn, so you're actually a backroom, and the king of the backroom or the lord of the backroom is your uncle."
Yes. Yeah. Oops. Yep. So you have been waging war on your own blood, and there's a minor freak out about that, but Denham has a square, he's got his head squarely on his shoulders. No, I'm Denham Pavel. I'm not Morn. Mm-hmm. That's fine. Whatever.
Yeah. Rejects family.
Yes.
Or rejects blood, in favor values and ethics.
Yeah. But, Olivia and Denham, they grew up together. Denham has basically no memory of this, but, she is kind of stringing this along. There's like a subplot where Olivia really, really loves Denham. And like, as part of the ending, like she gets a blessing to go and pursue him romantically as he's, on his walkabout or what have you. But yes, there's a little bit of that here. Go ahead.
I don't think I saw that actually. Like, I think, so there are minor differences between chapter 4, depending on whether you did law or chaos before it.
Yeah.
I don't think that was part of my thing. I didn't make specific notes because there wasn't a reminder that was just chapter 4 for just the chaos differences that I could find.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think so. I think that doesn't show up in this version.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Yeah. She ends up not being too terribly important to the story. Outside of that, is just it kind of comes up out of nowhere. When it ultimately happens. But she says, okay, well, we need to go find my dad. The only place that he could be is the small abandoned Hagia out in the wilderness. So we need to head that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we do. Mm-hmm. There's more side quest here. There's a pirate graveyard, and I could go fight the necromancers if I wanted to. Mm-hmm. And I did not.
Yeah. We got a Hagia to find.
Yeah, I love a Hagia. Give me that Hagia. Free my soul. So we're on our way. We stop over Mount Hedon, which is another volcano map with lots of dragons. Yeah. Not as bad because there's a leader dragon, or leader of the humans who is running the dragons to take out, but it's still rough stuff.
Yes.
We eventually get to the Hagia and talk to Maruva. Find them being marched away by the backroom and the Dark Knights.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the Dark Knights are being led by his daughter Sherry. Oops.
Yep.
And he says, "No, like, please don't kill my daughter, even though she is, has betrayed me here. You can recruit Sherry, I believe, but I end up killing her. I kill the fuck out of her."
Yeah, like a weird collection of Vorpal, not quite Vorpal, but like serious flaws in this game, and the number of. Where the way they do, leveling is the big one, but the way they do recruitment is very annoying.
Yeah.
So, I also do not recruit.
Right.
Her. Yeah. For Tactics Ogre reasons.
Mm-hmm. But after this battle, Maruva says, "Okay, I'll come with you." But he asks a question that weirdly has an effect on an important battle later on. He asks like, okay, you understand what you're doing here. You're going to war with the Dark Knights, but also against your own sister. Like, are you willing to do what needs to be done? And Denham has an option here, either to say, I can't do that, or to say, I've got to do what I must,
Yeah.
If you say I can't do that, she'll be present in a battle later on. If you say I will do what I must, she won't. So this is like a test to say, how devastating would it be to you if she died?
Yeah. Or, opposite, like if you didn't get a chance to kill her, if you're like, I'll do what I must. Yeah. It's really weird. Like it's kind of opposite, but it's a way of like twisting the knife.
Yes. Yeah.
I accidentally spoiled this on myself when I was like reading to try to figure out how much game I had left.
Okay.
So I ended up doing the thing where she wouldn't be there because I didn't want to fight her.
No,
even though it wasn't role playing, it wasn't what I would do as a role playing. Like role playing, I'd be like, yeah, I can't do that. Yeah. But I had accidentally spoiled it for myself.
Yeah, I had not had it spoiled for me. I had no way of knowing this would even be an important thing. But yeah, I role played it. I was like, it's just shit, man. We have no idea of predicting which way this is going to go. So yeah, we have to do what we have to do. Yeah.
So Brandon has a nightmare where something is calling to him, some kind of creature or force is calling to him. He wakes up and he learns that Sherry failed. Mm-hmm. Back at Almorca, Warren is there and he's slowly dying. He explains that the Zenobians weren't here just as exiles, like they said. They were sent by their king to recover a sword called Brynhildr, which is currently in the hands of the Dark Knights. Mm-hmm. This is believed to be a conduit for God's power. And now there are magical artifacts and, super tombs and stuff.
Yes. Oh boy, is there a super tomb, a tomb with as many battles as the whole chapter.
A tomb with a view.
Yes. So we have Brynhildr. This is a very powerful thing. I mean, and we're going to this is going to be dribbled out slowly over the course of the rest of the chapter. But the idea that Brynhildr is enough to accomplish what they want to do, and why do they have Kashua, is, a pretty important, discrepancy. If they don't need her, why are they doing this? Yeah. So when we return to Fidok, we learn that Kashua and the Dark Knights are at Barnicia Castle, and they're looking for a tomb. So, we know exactly what they're up to. We need to go there. We need to, try and stop this by hook or by crook.
Yeah. Yep. So there's some side quests here, depending on what path you've done. Like I said, I had those chaos side quests. If you're neutral, you can deal with the remaining Liberation Front that are there. And if you're law, you can recruit Ozma.
Yeah, this was not available for me because I had done something that made Hobbyrim not sufficiently loyal. His chaos frame was too low.
Yes. And see the first episode for discussion of Chaos Frame.
Yes.
There is an optimal path if you want to collect them all in terms of going through New Game Plus and doing these in order, which is, I think, neutral, lawful, chaotic.
Yes. Yeah.
And that will max out your loyalty to the characters that are hard to keep loyal. Enough to where they will weather the changes in your personality to collect all the Pokemon.
Yes. Specifically characters who you get toward the end, toward end of chapter 3 and into chapter 4, because there are some of them, I think specifically Hoberim, because he's Zenobian and you end up fighting some Zenobians. You get him and then immediately you start fighting people who he does not want you to kill. So I think that's what happens.
Yep.
Yeah.
We got a new battle hazard that pops up in Zorius Field, which is tar. When you get it, you can only changes your mobility to 1, so you can maybe move out of it, but maybe not.
Yes.
And there's a big lake of tar that the enemy is on the other side of.
They're not smart enough to try and go around it.
Nope, they just go into the tar and you kill them in the tar.
Yeah. Don't light a cigarette, Barney.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The tar is going to be a major factor in what ended up being the hardest fight in the game for me. I had to do a ton of leveling. I had to engage with crafting to get through this. But at the gates of Barnicia Castle, where you're going uphill toward a castle wall here, you have all of your enemies uphill, either at the top of this small little staircase and bridge, or up this kind of rough mountainside with patches of tar everywhere. And you have 2 golems who are nearby down at the bottom of this. And basically no tactic that I could find would give me enough of an advantage, would keep the golems at bay long enough. Specifically because you have these Templar Knights who end up being just a real pain in the ass, because they all look the same, but they have different skills. Some of them are casters who will do everything they can to lift whatever status effect you put on the golems.
Yeah, they're basically there to protect the golems.
Yeah, and the golems start right next to you, and they will make a slow march down the tar, and you only have an option to go up, either up this bottleneck or walking along the tar itself, which will lower all of your ability. And as they're headed down, it doesn't help that they are slow, because enough of them have ranged weapons and magic to rain down on you for the several turns while you are just trying to plink down these golems. Yeah,
this is really hard. This wasn't my personal Vietnam in this, but this is really hard. And the Templar Knight thing, the fact that they all look the same but they have different builds, is really annoying.
Yes.
I do not understand the impetus behind that decision. I assumed maybe they had different colors and I just wasn't seeing it. But hearing you say no, they're all, they all look the same, that's really rough stuff.
Yeah.
Because being able to read a unit was already a little bit difficult for me in this, because I didn't have the libretto, right? I wasn't used to it. I by the end of the game, I could recognize a lot of the different units.
Yes.
Just by sight. but not all of them.
Yeah.
But having them all be the same on the battlefield really kind of fucked me.
There is a color difference between them. So there are like purplish blue ones and kind of a purplish red ones. However, that only differentiates which sex the unit is. To understand what they are, you have to like inspect the unit and then go in and look at their skills and equipment.
Gotcha. Yeah, it was readability is really important. Like the fact that I could do it was fine.
Yeah,
So,
but like, okay, you identify the caster with the crossbow, who will just completely ruin you when his TP reaches 100, but then he goes and blends in with everybody else, and you lose track of him. So
yeah, it's like a Hitman mission.
Yeah. and then the golems, they have limit breaks at this point, just limit breaks that will damage anybody who is within 3 squares of them.
That limit break is incredibly tough.
Yes.
Like I ended up having to use the strategy of like watching the enemy's TP. You end up getting some spells that will remove or reset.
Yeah, they're so
and this
expensive.
Is where I end up,
oh my god,
they're really expensive. Like it's a race. Like you can barely get to where you can cast them.
Yeah,
be like in time to use them. Unless you're just like absolutely chugging magic seeds, and them shit's expensive.
Yes.
Like, yeah, I don't know, man. Like this is tricky. And also because of undead maps, and especially undead maps that are coming up, this is when I like really need to have a stock of exorcism scrolls because I need everyone to be able to do exorcism or I'd be fucked.
Yeah.
Because one of the things about this game, when undead units come back, they don't come back with less HP.
Nope. Full health.
Or anything. Full health. It just starts over. It's tough stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So Barbas and Lancelot, evil Lancelot, are talking on the parapet. And they're fighting. Barbas is calling Lancelot a coward for considering retreating to the Lotus. But Lancelot says, no, this is part of a greater plan, regardless of whether we end up using the Zenobian blade that we have.
Yes.
When Denam shows up and goes, hey guys,
hey
me,
hey guys,
Lancelot and Catua leave, and Barbas is like, I have a new toy, a fusel. Which is a gun. This is played for comedy here for me, where it like backfires on him when he tries to use it, which is kind of cute.
Yeah, well, he ends up like accidentally shooting one of his own men and then yelling at that man for standing in front of him.
Yeah. And it was just kind of clever. It's teaching you how these weapons work. Like, my understanding of fusel, I never really used them in the game, but they can hit any spot on the map. Yeah, but they do have to have line of sight.
Yeah, and also they do a ton of damage, and there are like skills that would normally protect you from projectiles that do not protect you from fusils. So
seems like the kind of class to introduce somewhere in chapter 2 as opposed to the end of the game. But what do I know?
Yeah. At this point, if you have Vice with you, having gone through the route that I went through, he is a ranger and he can equip fusils, but he starts as a level 1 ranger. So
cool.
Yeah. So taking out Barbas is pretty easy in comparison to the fucking gates. But he warps away. All of these, all of them have their little bug out crystals. And when you get into the grand staircase, you have Catua here. This can go a couple of different ways. You can either, have her leave the battlefield for the upcoming fight, or she will remain and be incredibly aggressive with you. Making it possible that you will accidentally kill her and lock yourself out of the good ending.
It's so crazy that Denam is such a jerk that everyone who grew up with him secretly hated him his whole life.
And like he's mostly like under characterized. He's mostly like pretty anodyne and exists in reaction to everything around him. Like. Yeah.
Tactics Ogre, let us have imposter syndrome. Like Tactics Ogre, I'm a little too high and everyone hates me.
Tactics Ogre, we've all been whispering about you.
Yeah, it's very weird. She wasn't there for me, so I didn't get to see this, but I read about people saying like, lots of questions like, oh, I killed Catua, am I fucked? Yeah.
Yeah, she's a pretty major character, and like the game goes on without her, but yeah.
So you do this fight with Lancelot in this throne room just full of Templars. Lancelot warps away. When you take him out, we get Catua, and she thinks you're going to kill her. And you're like, no, just, what?
Like, no, I'm
Like,
here to rescue you. Like, if you want to come with me, but like, I don't know.
Where are you getting this from?
I'm trying very hard not to say like, hey, please settle down.
Yeah. You don't want to tell somebody to like, calm down when they're upset, but Jesus Christ. So you basically you say like, listen, we're still brother and sister. She's like, no, we don't have the blood. And you're like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You get 2 questions and you have to answer these right, to assure her, to let her live.
Yes.
So I answered the questions right. She lived. She joins your team as a class called Princess.
So she joins you as just as her regular priestess, like at the same level where she left you.
You get a princess card.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the making her into
she brings a princess card.
Yes.
Like, hey guys, check this out. Like she's playing Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah. Princess is actually it was pretty useful to make her that. Even though we're pretty close to the end, because she has she gets the ability to equip swords, which is good. She becomes kind of like the best combat mage that you can get.
Yeah, like in a game full of combat mages, where all the classes are variations of combat mages. I just wasn't going to train Sling up from level 1.
Yeah,
you cannot make me do this, Tactics Ogre. Like, no matter how much you try to entice me,
I know
there's no treat.
Yeah,
there's no treat that is going to make me just go grind for 5 hours,
right,
to go do this.
Yeah. So, like, the correct answer to these 2 questions changes depending on whether or not she was present in the fight. If you do not answer them correctly, she will, instead of going with you, she'll commit suicide in front of you.
Cool.
Which is uncool.
It just like, calm down. Like it is a like, chill the fuck out, man.
Yeah.
Like, none of this is all a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
It's so crazy that she gets that extra about this.
Yeah.
Yep.
So. And this is one of those things where, like, in different translations and in the original text, there's very much, the idea that she wants a romantic relationship with you, but you're not going to do that because this isn't Pornhub from 2016 to 2020 inclusive.
Yep.
So,
yeah, you did not, stepdad sneaks up on stepsister.amv and like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
It's not that kind of shit.
No, it's not that. But, regardless, she kind of takes, not really a backseat in the story, but like going forward, she ends up kind of being the leader of the resistance, like trying to stand up this kingdom of Valeria, from these broken remnants, while also leading the fight against these Dark Knights who are very much working counter to everybody's interest. They're working in Lodis's interests. Yeah.
She becomes the ruler.
Yeah.
At this point, for me, like the rightful ruler.
Right.
And I kept thinking like, oh, the peace. Mm-hmm. Like we did it. We reunited, like she's on the throne. Everybody likes it.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, yeah, but we still have this problem. We have to take care of Branton and we have to take care of the remnants of the Bakram. And then we like the rest of, from this point on, it's like weird cleanup.
Yeah.
Like it's that. And then the Dark Knight, it's like, let's go kill our loose ends.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
Elsewhere, while she is saying, hey, I'm going to lead from the front, this is not a time for me to, to just be a figurehead. We have Lancelot Tartarus, meeting up with Barbas. And there is disagreement among their ranks. Basically, Lancelot is berating Barbas, and this is kind of a hint of some things to come as we get ready to march to Heim.
On the way, there are multiple paths to go. There's like a desert and then a canyon. Canyon has lots of octopi, so we take the desert, but it's no real big deal.
Yeah.
We get to Orem City, which is built on the side of the mountain, so there's this huge height discrepancy.
Yeah.
And you either march your way all the way up there, or you just sit there and tank up while the enemies come down to meet you.
It's a fun fight. I like this one quite a bit. Yeah. But Heim ends up being another multi-area dungeon. A mad.
Mm-hmm.
The gates,
Mothers against multi-user dungeons.
Oh, that's just ma'am. Yeah.
Madmub.
Mad Mub. The gate's guarded by some archers. It's not too bad. You get a choice when you get inside whether to go to the South Curtain Wall, which has a dragon bottleneck in it, or the Postern Gate, which is where I went, has kind of like a hedge maze off to the side, which if you get trapped into it, just, there's no direct path to anybody who is attacking you with projectiles.
Yeah, movement tax. I think I ended up doing the dragon one just on accident and just kind of forcing my way through.
Yeah.
So,
at this point, like I was saving before I made one of these choices, going in and seeing what one was, going in and seeing what the other was, and making my decision based on that, because I don't know, intelligence is good.
Adding that mechanic to one of these games is a really good idea.
Yeah.
If somebody ever makes another one of these, like if you have a certain class in your party, like a scout class, like add that to the thief skill set, because thieves tend to be pretty useless.
Yeah.
But like if you have a thief in your party, you get to see the battlefield and the layout before you go in it.
Yes. Incredibly important.
You can prepare. It'd be really cool.
Yeah. Like, I understand that it's tactics, so you're making decisions in the moment, and forethought is strategy. There's a difference between them, but we can forget that little bit of pedanticism, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Final Fantasy strategy. So we do this battle. Afterwards, we see Branton arguing with the Dark Knights who are there. Lancelot walks in and tries to stage a coup against him, but Barbas and his own men turn on him and march him out.
Yeah. He has lost the confidence of the Dark Knights.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is weird, because Lancelot Tartaros has been set up as being the ultimate villain of this entire thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of hard to keep all of that straight. And it also feels like a little bit like, oh, this is another like political factions quibbles I need to deal with.
Yes.
In the middle of this, that doesn't add up to a whole lot. Like, and spoiler, like I don't like the end game of this very much. I think the end boss is good, but like, it's not. Chapter 4 of this, I think, is pretty dumb.
Yeah.
And we're going to get into this stream of battles that is a real problem. I think.
Yeah. So Heim Courtyard, we have a complicated area with just tons of little terraces separated by stairways. Again, bottlenecks, really tough to if you're trying to make any kind of advance. You might have Canopus able to go around from place to place, but everybody else has to hoof it. After you do that, up in Heim's War Room, we've got this just a real bastard of a Dark Knight named Martin.
This is the guy who I talked to before, who's a real.
Gotcha.
This guy's a real asshole.
Yeah. No, he's tied up Lancelot, Balzephin, and a third one, and he has taken Brynhildr, the sword, on its own. And we learn the reason why there is this dissent in the ranks. So, they are, this advance party for Lodis coming in and trying to soften up Valeria. Martin accuses Lancelot of treason, saying, hey, we could have just gotten the sword and then taken what we needed, but you got us wrapped up in this whole thing with the princess. And we're just going to take the sword and, break the seal for ourselves, because we think that you were going to, try and betray us by breaking the seal yourself, essentially.
Yeah. No. Lancelot and the other people decide they don't want to be tied up anymore. So they flex and then the ropes disappear. They flee. We arrive at the Great Hall. Martin and his Dark Knights, took off for some place called the Hanging Gardens. Branton says, okay, Barbas, you saved me from that coup. Go kill these people for me. and Barbas is like, hold up.
Wait a minute.
I don't owe you. You don't own me. And we get into a fight with our uncle. And if I did not take Catua with me, but she has additional dialogue. If you take her with you, I had already trained a superior priestess.
Yeah.
And basically, like, he's just a shit. Hey, you've been prolonging this war. You knew about Catua's birth. You could have saved all those lives. And he basically said, like, I was lowborn. I had to make my own nobility.
Yes.
I was born without a silver spoon, so I fashioned one of steel.
That's so good.
Yeah, it's a really good line.
Yeah. It's a pretty tough fight. You've got these cleric Templars there just mixed around with everybody, while Branton loves hanging out on top of these pillars, just like out of reach of everybody.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. You finish the fight, and Quechua gathers her council in the war room. There's no more backroom.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everyone is going to be Valerian. And this is could be the end of the game.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like this should have been the climax, and then the rest of the stuff should have all been rolled into the post game.
Yeah.
You know?
No, we have united Valeria. Yeah.
We've united the Valeria. We did it. But they're like, hey, we still got Dark Knights about. We have to go find them. They're in this area called the Hanging Gardens. And I'm like, what the fuck is the Hanging Gardens? Like, I've never heard of this.
This has never
it's
been
apparently
brought up.
the biggest section of the country that's ever been, just by real estate. You know, we go to leave, and we find in Branton or God, what is it? These fucking names.
in Rhyme.
Yeah, or in this area where they had Lancelot and they've tortured him to death, or tortured him to being a shell of his former self. Like he's just one flew over the cuckoo's nest, like staring out the window. Yeah,
like they Quechua and Denam go in, like they had heard a rumor, like, hey, where's this great hero who basically we kept on trying to find him, and we were looking for his leadership. And he's a shell of his former self. They don't even recognize him really when they see him. His portrait's all different because he's all scarred and his head's been shaved and stuff. He won't even really speak. Denham activates his music box, the music box that Lancelot had, shown him and said, like, this is the reason why I fight. My wife had died, but I hear the song and it keeps me going. When he hears the song, like, Lancelot gets up and screams and collapses on the floor. Like, so this is Lancelot. Yeah. Like, he's having this response, but he is not. He is not well. He is not together. He is gone.
Yeah. It was not nice of us to play the music box.
No.
For him. No. It was not actually a kindness, no. As much as it maybe seemed like it was.
Mm-hmm.
To do this,
we get his sword. I was too low level to actually use that on any of my folks. So, oh well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which is okay.
Yeah.
This would have had a big impact if I'd played the previous game. I feel like I was not super attached to this character. Like, I understood he was a solid bro, but like,
yeah,
like I got my party at this point. Like, and this all again feels like postscript.
Mm-hmm.
The final dungeon is this thing called the Hanging Gardens,
right?
Which is introduces a gimmick. This is a multi-area dungeon where most of the battles don't have plot to them. It's just here's some monsters.
Yeah.
And when you do it, there are multiple doors. If you just do the default, then you just end up fighting the default. Like you're going to the next default area.
Yeah.
If you end up finding a secret door, though, you go to these other areas and you skip something. So you end up doing anywhere between 6 and 10 battles.
Right.
For this.
Now, understand that, most of these chapters have somewhere between like 14 and 15 battles that you have to do in them. 14, 15, yes. 16. So like this final dungeon, what it represents from both this kind of maze area at the start and, the linear series of battles that you do at the end when you catch up with the Dark Knights, represents as many fights as the rest of the chapters, but you're past the point of no return. You cannot go anywhere else. So like this is a major test of both your skills and how much you have managed to save up as well.
Yeah. Pretty kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
And hard to talk about battle by battle. The one battle that I want to mention here that destroyed me was the mountain that has the one pass up it and is filled with undead. The undead, there are ghost and skeleton archers up top that just rain arrows on you while undead dragons come down.
Yep.
And I managed to stagger the undead dragons like respawns.
Yeah.
So one of them would go down. And then, before I could get to them, because I would take them down with ranged weapons, before I can get to them to exercise them, or my character would be able to, get the MP needed to exercise.
Yeah.
I would have to, he'd come back while I was taking out the other one.
Okay.
So it took a million years, and I ended up having to start over the dungeon and go back to the store and buy more exorcism scrolls.
Jesus.
And I lost my mind. I was extremely upset.
Yeah.
About this. Yeah.
No,
So,
I hit that one too. I have no idea how I managed to get through it, without needing to do that. There was just like, it just literally took forever.
yeah, it's no good.
Yeah.
It's a really, really frustrating battle.
Yeah. And like, these are interesting areas from like a topography kind of point of view. Like they are smaller spaces that, are pretty like dense with different, like different paths around them. Like the actual like levels themselves have good evocative Matsuno names, the serpent's spine, his fist upraised, songs of raven hair.
Yeah.
Like that's cool. I like that. The vermilion stare, the beast has fangs.
Yeah.
Just
It's
like
neat.
the different parts of these gardens that all have different names to them and such. Like that part of it's cool. But yeah, it's quite a bit.
Yeah. It's just too much for me.
Yeah.
By quite a bit, honestly. Like, I was really ready for the game to be over at this point. Like, if I'm being super honest, like it felt like I'd hit a climax. We're going to go deal with the supernatural shit. As we go into, the dungeon underneath, when we actually make our way down here. Right before we do so, we run into Lancelot and Martin are at King Dorgalula's tomb. They're going to break the seal here.
Yeah.
That's beneath the garden. And yeah.
We kill a Dark Knight who we had met before, and Doris, like, who, just like the dialogue in his battle had to do with like, him working with the Dark Knights after they sacked his, his home village. Basically, like they took over, Lodis took over his country. Here he tells you like, yes, like they are at Dorgalua's tomb. That's what this is. The Hanging Gardens, it wasn't just erected in memory of the king. He's buried here. And he says, no matter what happens here, you need to make Valeria strong as a rock, because otherwise Lodis is going to roll in and destroy you just like it did us.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. Good. We head down through the dungeon. There's a fight where we fight Barbas and Martin together. Just the two of them. Yes. And we have a small group. This is actually a really fun fight, I think. I really like this. It's difficult, to do this fight because they're both really tough. I basically win through move economy.
Yeah.
Like just having more turns than they do. But just barely. Like this is really fun to me.
It's like I like that fight because even though you're fighting two of them, you're allowed to carry in 5, which it's better than carrying in 12. It'd be a little bit too much of a stomp, but it is a fun climax fight. But it's too late. They have already used Brynhilde to break the seal. We're in this chamber, and we see just all this fireworks and stuff going on, and Barbas talks about what the king's legacy actually is, and we're fully into the realm of the supernatural at this point. So King Dorgalua, he had lost his faith in the gods of light because he had lost his wife and son, both kind of at the same time. And what he had sought to do was to go and seek the help of the dark gods in hell to bring them back. So he was getting a little bit of a Faust kind of thing going on. And, this is the first we have really heard of the light or dark gods. We have the Felaha or whatever, who the Abunas were, priests to. But, all of this goes back to part of the creation myth, this ogre battle between mankind and the ogres, with the gods of light on man's side and the ogres on the side of the, and the dark gods on the side of the ogres.
Yeah. Yep. So the seal here is this chaos gate. It opens the door to hell, to the dark realm. And it's sealed from this side.
Yes.
Not their side. So when we take them out, they break the seal. And the demonic king, Dorgalua, I pronounce that differently every single time, emerges, and he beckons for Brynhilde, so we can get out of the summoning circle. And we do our 2-phase emboss, which I actually really like.
It's really good. I didn't expect this, and it was tough.
Yeah, it's really tough. What he does is can bring your full 12 group, but you fight a whole doppelganger crew of them with Dorgalua. there.
Yeah.
So it's pretty neat. Like you are fighting a mirror match in a tactics game. And I'm like, oh man, I gotta get that fucking Canopus.
Yeah.
Like evil Canopus has to go now. Like, fuck. And I ended up doing this the same way I did everything, which was lots of charm. But it was probably, the second hard, other than that Undead Dragon Vietnam thing that I went to.
Yeah.
It was probably the hardest battle I did, but really fun because I had an intimate understanding of the capabilities of all of the enemy units.
So it's actually pretty fun. Like it is you understanding how these different units work together. And like, I know what I would do, and you're up against the AI who, kind of has a different idea of like what optimal play for these would be. Kind of at a more atomic level, running its own understanding of the odds and stuff. And you don't have to take out all of them. Like I knew what I needed to do with my 6 archers or whatever it was. I knew like, okay, I've got to take out the like these priests and stuff like that in order to open things up. It's a little bit lopsided in their favor because you do have Dorgalia running around doing buffs and debuffs. But yeah, like you are trying to take him out while they are very much keeping you busy.
Yeah, and you actually don't, a pro tip for this, which I did not know, is that you just need to, if this is, again, take out the leader. Like I was fucking with my crew.
Yeah.
You really just want to focus fire because it starts a second phase where you fight Super Dorgalia, but you don't get a heal in between or anything.
Right.
You get this little thing where your whole crew is set up like the positions of the clock, 12 around him.
Yeah.
And had to fight him who is in the center. He can teleport around. Hit you and everything, and he had huge damage resistance.
No,
for me, like most of my attacks, like my normal archers and stuff, did not do damage to him.
Oh wow!
I had to wait for TP attacks.
I ended up taking him down before he could move. I don't know what. I have no idea what that was.
Just could be higher level.
Yeah,
like into spending more time leveling. Like I had some things like the berserkers, if I switch them to they have like a skill that increases their strength. If I use that, I can hurt them, etc. So I just kind of plinked him down with my guys who could hurt him. And it was not super hard. Like this phase was way easier than the first phase. But it just he kind of teleports around and does AoEs that hurt a lot, but your guys are very spread apart, so you're unlikely to get hit hit everybody.
It's unlike every other fight in the game in that way.
Exactly. Where you're all clustered together.
Like,
and to me, this is the end of the game. Like this is the end boss. I did not do the rest of the stuff really.
Yes.
Here.
Yeah. And as he's doing, as he's fighting you, he is kind of doing his villain speeches, talking about, I need to bring my wife and son back, like he still is very much, motivated by that because he has been trapped in hell and warped by these forces as they go. But it's hard to reconcile that with some of the broader movements of the story that have come before this.
It feels very unrelated. Like it's about family and stuff, but I don't feel like that theme was ever properly centered. In the game, and it's also like such an abstraction of being about family. Like it's like it's a hellscape with a demon lord of the creation myth. Like this felt like out of nowhere. Like I like this mechanically a lot, but I don't. As much as Final Fantasy Tactics gets shit for bringing in all the supernatural stuff, like partway through, the evil Jesus that possesses your sister, I like more than this guy. At least based on, and probably in part because of that being a self-contained story. Like this, this might have made more sense if I had the entire Tactics Ogre series to have the context for these guys and all these factions. I just kind of didn't. I had a very hard time like connecting to this in any way other than mechanically at the end. And like the evil Jesus and all of that integrated pretty well with like the rest of the themes of that story in Final Fantasy Tactics, because so much of it was about the history that is actively hidden from you and what kind of forces dwell in those spaces that nobody's aware of. Right. And this game kind of takes a little bit of that steez, but it kind of just throws it in at the end. It felt like. a little bit. Like up until that point, I was a pawn, and that's that's Matsuna's thing. Like you're a pawn, and they're bigger forces.
Yeah.
I felt like the bigger forces, the ultimately bigger forces, were not hinted at until the end. Like they're still there, but the gradual like turning up of the supernatural shit with the the stones in Final Fantasy Tactics ended up being a stronger way to do it.
Yeah.
For me.
So with Dorgalua down and the gate to hell open, we have a problem to deal with, but we have some Deus Ex Machina. Warren, who had previously been bedridden, appears and warps everyone away, including Denam. And it's presumed that he sacrificed himself to redo the seal here.
Yep.
As the garden kind of collapsed around it.
Yep. Having taken out the Dark Knights, Valeria can be united. Cachua gives her speech at her coronation here. We get all of our allies kind of take off generally.
Yes.
So I did not have Vice, but he stays on as a protector. Olivia has a blessing from her father to your thing to be with Denam. She was not romantically interested in me. She just hung out.
It's cool. I'll be here if you need me. Okay.
Yep. Donalto decides to take the Wallister orphans, tell Morica to take care of them so he can get to know them. So when they grow up, they can not listen to him.
Yep.
When he tries to tell them what happened.
Yeah.
And
kids,
Canopus,
please do not drink those bottles beneath the sink. Fuck you, old man.
Yeah, old man. I knew what happened there. I read a pamphlet on it. Canopus leaves with the other Zenobian knights.
Yes.
And he's like, hey, when you get a chance, why not come and visit us?
Yeah.
See the land that Warren and Lancelot gave their lives for.
Yes. Yeah. And, Denham, he's, he is relating all of this to his father's grave, and he's going to take them up on that. Like he is going to go and wander in Zenobia before he comes back, as he is sure that Lodis is going to invade. This is different than in previous translations. My understanding is in the previous versions, Denham sent himself into exile because he knew that he could not be an effective agent for Cachua after everything that he had done in the run up to the peace. So it's it's a matter of it's like, what is it in that first chapter? There's blood on my hands. How soon till it hits my heart or whatever. He just through the actions of the war knows that he cannot be useful. And we get an ending card that kind of takes a little bit of the wind out of the sails, because we get both a to be continued, but also text about Valeria lasting for 1,000 years before joining peaceably with the people of Heth. We have no idea. We have not heard of anybody from Heth.
Yeah.
What's that supposed to mean to me?
Heth wants sex. Give Heth. We don't know what Heth is. And also we can keep going if we want.
Yes. We have a couple of options for how to do that.
Yeah. There is a Coda episode, which deals more with Good Lancelot, which I was sure I was going to do. I was like, I wanted to play this, and I just ran out of time. I didn't want to. You can also jump around. You get the world tarot now, so you can jump back to specific decision points to see how things go. You bring your whole crew back with you. This will end up creating mirror matches. Like if you have Vice in your party and you go to a Vice fight, they'll just be two Vices.
Yeah.
And since battles scale with you, this is your way to see the story battles and still have them be mechanically challenging. I'm in favor of this.
Yes.
As an idea, I just was not hungry for more Tactics Ogre.
Yes.
And then there's also a big challenge. There's all the side quests we didn't talk, we glossed over. And there's also a big 100 floor, the Palace of the Dead, which is where you get into all your meta stuff. Like when people online talk about optimal builds, it involves grinding the Palace of the Dead, items you only find in the Palace of the Dead.
Yes.
And stuff. They added the PSP version, made that friendlier. There are now shops that show up, so you can restock. There used to not be shops.
Jesus.
In the Palace of the Dead.
Wow. Yeah. There's one epilogue that we didn't mention. I forget if I made a note of it or whatever. But Lancelot and Balzephin, they get away. They return to Lodis. Yeah, because it was really Barbas and Martin who, did the betrayal and took Brynhildr. Like they go, they basically just hop on a boat to go back to Lodis with their tail between their legs. Yeah.
Yep. And I have a feeling we'll be running into them game after game as a new and exciting location.
So I was unclear on how the Game Boy Advance game fit into this. Apparently, so that's a prequel. Like that shows Lancelot Tartarosa's fall.
Yeah. Well, it's called Knights of Lodis. Like it is about those guys.
Yeah, I had no idea that it was specifically about that character. I thought it was about the Knights of Lodis more broadly.
Yeah, and that's kind of Tactics Ogre. Like there was more here.
Yeah.
I had my fill.
Yes.
So I stopped. As I mentioned last episode, my play clock for this was 60 hours. That included some fast forward, but also a couple false starts.
Yeah.
I got my chunk. This could have been, if I wanted to do the whole thing, easily 100, 110 hours.
Yeah.
Probably just to redo it multiple times and do that dungeon. And in a world where like, just content, the amount of content is best. And when I say world, I mean like, I guess like an age. Like if I was of that age, I would have just like slurped.
Oh, Jesus.
Slurp this up.
Yeah.
As is, I was just like this, for reasons we enumerated, like I was like, this is a worse version of Final Fantasy Tactics. The story here is actually legitimately good, and Final Fantasy Tactics is great. Yeah. So even a worse version of it is still good, but I do not have an unlimited appetite for this. And some of the character stuff, if the plot stuff was good, some of the character stuff was less. And mechanically, it just had those like some big problems that just really stopped me from falling in love.
Yeah.
With that.
Big problems that they're obviously married to, because they've had, several bites at the apple with it. And I understand that there is a certain amount of, you don't want to change something on people who have, been around, right? So like, people come to expect, that the game is going to work this way. And maybe like the recruitment and angle there is, they view it as something that is baked in that people are really going to enjoy. And also that is such a part of the fabric of the game that changing it to kind of match our requests about it would fundamentally change what the game actually is, for a lot of people who are, who are kind of into it. So like, they see all of these bad decisions, all of these things that didn't land well for us. Let's put it that way. They see all of those as assets, and they kept it in from revision after revision. And I feel comfortable just saying that, like, yeah, there's so much about this that I appreciate, and I'm happy that I played it, but like, I could not help but think that there is a version of this that really landed for me better elsewhere, and that's okay, because there's this for people who like it, and there's Final Fantasy Tactics for me,
Yeah, for the rest.
And that appeal, it could probably just be nostalgia, like prior to probably Dark Souls and maybe a couple of MMOs. Final Fantasy Tactics is the game that I put the most amount of hours into. Multiple 100+ hour saves. Yeah.
Is the thing. Like I was worried about that too, but then having replayed them and gone to this with like a fully open mind, like the class system, this is objectively worse.
Yeah.
Like I know objectively is a bad word when it comes to criticism, but like it's not that you level up classes that's worse. Starting characters at level 1, it is like getting like in Final Fantasy Tactics, you get Cloud, and it's a bummer because he's level 1 and everyone complains about it. In Tactics Ogre, Let Us Cling Together, you get multiple Clouds per chapter.
It's everything. Yeah.
It's really, really stifling. And then even the fact that when you put in that time, having the characters have the classes have so much less identity from each other is really stifling.
Yeah.
Like it is much harder for me to differentiate the difference between a holy knight and a knight, both of which are armored characters that use white magic. They can just use different white magic.
Yeah.
Versus like a mediator and an oracle.
Yes.
Or something like that. Like things that just very clearly, or a dancer and a ninja. A samurai, like, a samurai and a bard. Like the classes are just very different.
Yeah.
In FFT. And, I can understand the plot being something that is, you kind of take your own their own way. But this is a really, really grindy game where I would say the lion's share of the battles are, what if somebody was hunting you? Gotta fight him. And even in the law path, it sounded like you just ran into speed bumps on your way to doing the plot.
Yes.
Like for the most part. And like, that's a big bummer. Like I'm not trying to tell anybody if they have a preference, they're wrong, because they can have a preference based on these ineffables. But I don't think that it is just nostalgia that makes the class and character build system of FFT better.
Yeah.
I think it is just better.
That's persuasive to me. You know, you've played, I haven't played Final Fantasy Tactics since we covered it for the show, which is a mistake. I need to like play that game because I fucking love it.
It's still got like issues. Like you still end up, you know, like there's still parts where you, if you want to get a lot of JP, you train, you know, so that can be boring where you stand in a field, you throw rocks at each other. That is a bummer.
Yeah.
You know, but that's like all this is. Like this game is all that, except instead of going in a field and throwing rocks at each other, it's going back and forth and just doing random battles for every class. Like it's 5 times as much.
I want to talk about that because you know, just real briefly, and I know the episode should come to a close, but I want to address like the idea that like, okay, there is grinding here, and to a certain extent, like the mode of combat here is gratifying, right? You know, moving around on the grid, like you know the AP based system and like the really intricate the really intricate initiative system that's in play here, like to a certain extent, like. I can give the bummer story battles kind of a leeway because it's just fun to engage with that. However, when we talk about grinding, we're not talking about grinding along the main path and like, just like a lot of these battles are the same. Like when you get into a random encounter on a particular map, it's going to be pretty much exactly like the battle that you had before. Like, you know, so in Final Fantasy Tactics, when you got into a random battle in a place, you know, and you were high level, like it would bring in different enemies with different classes and like different monsters and stuff like that. Here, it's just level scaled up versions of the enemies that you would have fought here anyway. So if
without
you're going
the named character or like story beats.
Yes. Yeah. You know, so like when you go back to, you know, like if you're going across Tynamouth Hill or whatever, which is a fine place to level up, you're going to be doing the same battle over and over again. And that, you know, like they tend to work out the same way because, you know, even though the enemies do level with you, their behaviors don't necessarily change
actually
that much.
Change.
Yeah,
just
so
numbers
like,
change.
I just kind of knew like, okay, like this, you know, okay, so the wizard spawned over here. I'm going to go over for this and I'm going to wait while everybody else kind of comes to me. Cool. And you do that, you know, 5-10 times as you're grinding. like,
yeah. And alternatively, you set things to auto battle.
Yeah.
Right. And then you do it, but that is less engaging than the most like tappa JRPG.
It's like also expensive because every time I set them to AI, everybody was like, well, fuck yeah, let me start throwing around these magic seeds. Like, no, you can wait.
Yeah, you don't need this for that. So like the way to optimally auto battle to grind would be to like sell all your high value items for a fraction of what you paid for them.
Yeah. With
the idea that you'll get enough money from battling to buy them back. You know, it's weird. It's a weird choice. And it's the part of this that doesn't like, there was definitely a seed of this that was worth rescuing and bringing into a more modern era.
Yeah.
You know, because it's incredibly influential, it's super ambitious. Like this is a Super Nintendo game for fuck's sake. Like, but the sensibilities of it are very stuck in that era.
Yeah.
You know, of not, and the thing about Final Fantasy Tactics with its flaws like that at its best, like, you know, with not throwing rocks at each other in a field, like accepting that that's a bummer, accepting like putting in your couple levels as archer is kind of a bummer, right? To get thief and stuff. It still doesn't, it can feel timeless at times.
Yeah.
And just the amount of just like pure, you know, throwing yourself up against the same battle at Tynamouth Hill that you do in this feels like it's from a totally different era. Like it has aged really badly. Yeah. And what's frustrating is that would have been an easy thing to address because this is such a major overhaul.
Oh yeah. They change a lot.
Change almost everything. And like keeping the idea that like, yeah, when you get classes, they're level 1 and it takes 1,000,000 years to make them viable. You know, like the idea that you change classes or you level up classes instead of characters is really appealing if I'm going to consistently get new characters and change them into existing classes that I've already leveled up.
Yeah.
But that is not actually my experience
No,
with any of these games. My experience is I have a cadre, of people who I like. And those are my guys. I've invested in them. They're my same people. When I do Final Fantasy Tactics, I do 2 different kinds of playthroughs of that. I either do all generics and like, this is my army. I've been crafting these guys since the beginning. That's very satisfying. Or I do as few generics as possible and be like, this is the canon story.
Yes.
And those characters all start off powerful and worthwhile when you get them.
They're varied. They're extremely varied.
Super varied. Yeah. Like you're going to get, Masudio and Agrias, and like you're going to get like several different knights, but you're also going to get like Beowulf and shit. You're going to get weirdos.
Yeah.
In there that cover these spots. It's very rare that I have the problem of getting a new character and like being like, man, I wish they were already level 10, which this game does allow you to do, but at what cost?
Yeah. I mean, at a pretty great cost, because getting a new character or like unlocking a new class, we mentioned this in the previous episodes, so forgive me for repeating myself, but like either of those things, new character, new class, like that should feel like Christmas morning, man, or or insert whatever annual gift giving holiday you prefer. Like that's huge. Like that opens up new possibilities. Like
it at least should feel fun.
Yeah.
And it all ties into the grindiness of it because, we talked about how the base mechanics and battles of this are pleasurable, but they're pleasurable. That's a tool set. And if the tool set doesn't change and the things you're using the tool on doesn't change, it ceases to become pleasurable. Like there's a weird like Chalice Dungeon DNA to it where it's like, if you just really enjoy engaging with moving these guys around, sure. The fact that you can't use the character you're grinding up because they'll die in one hit and they can't do more than 1 damage to everything also fucking blows.
Yeah.
If you're trying to auto do the battle, you can put them on rear guard, which is the closest thing you can do to passive for a character, but they're still going to get killed.
Oh yeah, because the enemy prioritizes them because they're soft. Yeah.
Because they're soft. It's maddening. It's been a long time since I played a game that I'm more in the pocket for, that had, fewer problems that were this deep.
Yeah.
To like interrupt my enjoyment of it. The story, like all those turns of phrases, the way the story scales, the individual combat stuff, that's all very fun.
Yeah.
But it wasn't enough for me to like fall in love. Like I will keep this. I will keep, the original PSP version for someday. Play on an airport or an airplane or something. It'd be good for that kind of thing. But I was pretty happy to see it in the rear view, honestly.
Yeah.
When I finished it.
Yeah. I really scaled back. I intended to do everything, because I figured that I would have an appetite for this. Like I, had an appetite for Final Fantasy Tactics, and it just didn't really pan out that way. And I worry that people are going to say, oh gosh, you guys spent the entire time whining or what have you. I want people to understand that like, this is still, an edifying thing to have played. Right. Like I'm happy to have, gone for it. I hope that if you do perceive us as whining, you understand we're not whining about difficulty. We're not whining about.
No.
Yeah.
Like there's a couple of hard battles in this, but generally it was fine.
Right.
It's whining about tedium is always valid.
Yeah.
I think. And I think that between these 2 episodes, we did a pretty good job of explaining why those individual choices suck the star from the sky.
Yeah.
And what they mean in practical terms. And like, it's okay if you hear that and you're like, that's not really a big deal. Like I do not mind doing 5 or 6 battles whenever I get a new class.
Yeah.
To train them up. That's okay. Like if that's you, live your truth. Right. But to me, that's not why I play video games.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to run in place quite that much.
Yeah. And like, in leading up to this, like around the time that it came out, and also just as this game has come up in conversations, nobody explained that there were those differences that had such an impact. Right.
I feel like they don't remember them.
Yeah.
I feel like this is going to be one of those things where something is quarantined in the past.
Okay. Yeah.
Game
came out 10 years ago. Yeah.
Yep. They're remembering the high points. They're remembering the plot beats. And some of the innovations, and they're not remembering the actual experience of it. And that's the WAF experience as a Gary Butterfield of like saying like, listen to me when you actually play this, you spend a lot of time time doing this horse shit. And people are just like, yeah, I don't really remember that. It's like, you don't remember that the same way you don't remember every day you went to work. You know, you don't remember it because of conservation of detail.
Yeah.
But in terms of like an experience, it matters because it's a big bulk of the experience. You know, and I'm not trying to take this away from anybody who digs it, but just it's grindy. You know, and in a way that like you cannot engage with that, which I didn't do. And that just ended up limiting my tool set a lot and erasing some of those good feels.
Yeah.
So, thank you for listening. We appreciate you. Sorry for the little background noises that have happened in this episode. Somebody is moving, I think, in my apartment building. So they're banging and moving furniture in the hallway outside my apartment.
Very little of it has come through, so don't worry.
That's good.
Yeah.
The next episode we're going to be talking about for our premium episode, we're going to be talking about Mario Golf Advanced Tour and also a smattering of golf.
Yeah. Why golf games are good.
Yeah. So we're going to kind of structure that a little bit differently because I think we both remembered Advanced Tour having a little bit more story than it does.
Yeah.
If we just did the generalities and then talked about the story, the back half of that episode would be 10 minutes long. So instead we are going to kind of do the first part as kind of a survey of golf in video games and why that works for us. And the second part, talk about Advanced Tour more specifically.
Yes.
So we will, it's going to be a little bit of a weird episode, but it's a good game and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And I love golf games.
Yeah. And I love, I love experimenting with the structure of the show. It's fun.
Yeah. And then next month we'll be talking about Disco Elysium and Devil May Cry, the original 2006 version.
Or 2003.
If you have anything to say, 2003, thank you. If you have anything to say about any of those games, please hit us up at Duckfeed.tv/contact.
Yes. The deadline for that will be August the 15th. I always panic and look at this. If you are listening to this episode on the early release feed, you do have time. It's July the 15th is the deadline for Tactics Ogre, Mario Golf, and Hitman 2. Thoughts? Yes.
If you like the show and if you want to hear that Mario Golf episode or that Devil May Cry episode or any of the premium episodes we've done, hit us up on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. You can hear all of our bonus episodes, get a bunch of bonus shows, and support your boys.
Yeah.
Very appreciated.
Makes a big difference. You know, and, you know, leave us ratings or reviews. Tell your friends about us, all that good stuff.
Yeah. And until next time, what should they watch out for, Cole?
They should watch out for new classes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a bummer.
Well, good thing COVID means there won't be any new classes.
Oh, I'm sad again. I'm sad now.